Oh, good evening, friends and companions. Welcome back to the tavern. I hope you're all having a spectacular evening. As you can see, our beloved barmaid has returned to us, all bright and shiny again. Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. Let's see who all is in. Just killing time before making a 3 a.m. travel. Well, I'm so very glad you decided to stumble through the portals into the tavern and grace us with your presence. Missouri Crooked Bar. Do you have a shorter name I can refer to you as? Any which way. Let's see, we've got the Bear in, we've got Tonks, we've got Denise, we've got Teresa, Molly, Tyson, of course, Captain Hoodie. Jaeger is in for a rare appearance. Marina, Shadow. And let's see, we've got Ashley, Razzle. Hello, my friends. Frost dropping in, coming in hot. Surprisingly, given his name. Nightfall, how's it going? Welcome, welcome. Facebook isn't running. Facebook is showing for me. I've got Facebook up, and Matt and Destiny are over there. At least they were. And again, I was running internet tests to make sure the portals would be stable before we got on, and sadly, we've just had major instability issues. There's not a whole lot that I can do about it. They have been called, and they are about as helpful as two left shoes. Petra, hello, how's it going, my friend? Welcome in. Let's see. Missing a D&D game, just couldn't hang super late. It does happen. D&D does tend to run very late. You have to have a lot of time and fortitude for a long D&D game. Silverfang, hello and welcome to the tavern. So very glad to see you. Welcome in. Grab your seats and settle in, folks. We are in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire tonight. But before we begin, I have a few matters of business. This is really only going to be exciting for those of you who are regulars, but one of our fellow patrons actually wrote a short story about the tavern here. This is the vibe I've been scrolling for. Well, Crystal's Cloaks, thank you for coming in. I'm so very glad that you've joined us. Grab a seat, settle in. These are beautiful hardcovers, Fang, but even more than that, they are beautiful illustrated editions by Jim Kay. They are absolutely lovely. If you want to get a look at them, there's a link in the beacon in my bio so you can go see all of them. They've got the first 5 done and they are gorgeous. One of the most beautiful sets of books that we own. They are absolutely lovely. Razzle, thank you for the heart me. I appreciate that. Thank you kindly. Tips to the tavern keeper, always appreciated. So, everyone, settle in. You're a book collector? Well, we do a little bit of book collecting here in the tavern. This is where all stories eventually come to rest. We love ourselves a unique edition. I was not aware. Lovey, did I tell you about this, by the way? About this edition of Magician that you got?
No.
Apparently, this is a rather rare edition of this book.
Alright.
The only place I was able to find it on Amazon, it was selling for more than $80.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I definitely did not pay $80 for that.
The lady of the tavern and I, we do book rescue every now and again, and the lady actually found this version of this book, which is Magician by Raymond E. Feist. We'll be reading this one later tonight. And apparently this 2-volume edition, it's got the first 2 books of the series, both in one book. This version of this book is apparently no longer in print, or at least that's what I was able to gather. And The lady got it from a library out of the UK. They were getting rid of it, and she managed to rescue it, so it didn't end up in a dumpster somewhere or a recycling bin. Good now, thank you, Bear. I appreciate you, brother. Yeah, isn't it? And like we've come across so many unique copies of books by doing book rescue. It is interesting, and of course, it's beat up. It's not in wonderful shape, but still, it's a unique bit of literature history that is survived. And I could only find a few listings of it on Amazon, and I was able to find a few other listings on other used books websites, but it is fairly difficult to find, and it's out of print. I think the last time it was printed was back in 2013. So, fascinating. Also, just wanted to say thank you for the barmaid in Maine that held down the fort while I was dying. Well, we appreciate you for surviving so that you could make it back, Destiny. Everyone is grateful to have you back and now keeping us safe and well fed here in the tavern again. I'm listening while getting my beef stew into the crockpot. Spectacular. Esther, good evening. Welcome in. Good to see you. Quart, hello, hello. Now, for those of you who might be confused, we have portals open on all major platforms, so you can stumble your way into the tavern through Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitch, if you so enjoy. I missed your first... I didn't see what you'd said before. I have a first edition hardcover of Harry Potter, what a wonderful treasure, and a first edition of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Now that is a treasure. That would be incredibly difficult to get a hold of, I would presume. Leon, hello and welcome into the tavern, my friend. Grab yourself a drink, grab a seat, settle in. It is story time. Apple Intelligence is messing with me. It's probably because it is a conflict of terms. What do they call that? An oxymoron? Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was my grandmother. As in, your grandmother was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or you received the book from your grandmother, because either way, that is very funny or very interesting. Crystal Cloaks, thank you for... Crystal's Cloaks, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the tavern. You have now marked the tavern location on your map, so you should be able to find your way back again for more stories later. Jessica, good evening. Good to see you. Hello and welcome in. All the chaos. Cap is back, let chaos reign. Yes, yes. Any Kurt Vonnegut in the tavern? Not as of yet, but all of the stories that we read here during story time are voted on by the community. Tavern patrons pick out the books, and then I read them. That is the way that it goes. I choose none of the books. They are all chosen by you lot over in the Tavern Guild. So whatever you guys want me to read, that is what I read. I received the book from my grandmother. Okay. Because it would have been very interesting if your grandmother was a supernatural being who could transform into a monster with a potion, but what a wonderful gift. What a bit of heritage that you've encountered and passed on.
My mom does it without a potion.
Probably not best to say. Oh, that's very funny. I've marked the tavern on my map, but I think the tavern marked me on its map too. Yes, we like to know where you're at all times, Matt, for safety's sake. I'm suggesting 50 Shades for the next read. Of course you would, Shadow. Of course you would. I don't think I've read Vonnegut since university, though. It's been a long time. I have a bunch of his books. I just haven't read them in years. Ashley, hello. Now we have both Ashleys in. Ashley, upside down, Ashley. So we have upside down Ashley, and then see you, Ashley. I've got a second, all in favor. I think you guys just want to make me read something that will make me blush, but what you're failing to realize is that I'm going to read it all in Hagrid's voice. I'm going to read the entirety of 50 Shades of Grey to you in Hagrid's voice. The woman will have Hagrid's voice. Actually, you know what? The woman will have Hagrid's voice and the man will have Hermione's voice. That's how I'm going to read the whole book. Got a first edition of Gone with the Wind. Wow, I'd imagine. What's the girl's name? What's the girl's name in 50 Shades of Grey? Does anyone remember? I'm gonna know who the degenerates are by who answers, by the way. What is the girl's name in 50 Shades? Anastasia Steele, I know from my mother. Thank you, Leon. I appreciate you. I can imagine you enjoying Granfalloons from Vonnegut. Vonnegut was a great writer, dark in a lot of what he did, but Vonnegut was a great writer. Oh, wait, is Kurt Vonnegut still alive? Anastasia. Okay, hang on. Of course, that's why Destiny. I'm sure Destiny only knows because it's her favorite princess, not because she has a laminated special edition copy of it sitting on a shelf that has been waterproofed for reasons. We'll just pretend that it's yeah. I read it once. I hated the book. Oh, good lord. Oh wait, no. So Anastasia is supposed to have Hagrid's voice. Wait, what's the guy's name? It's Grey, but what's his first name? Christian. All right, thank you. I have 3 signed hardcovers of the Eragon series. I love Eragon. Eragon is very close to my heart. Dakota Something is the actress, I believe. It's funny to me how many of you guys know this. I read 3 chapters in the book when it first came out, and then I never watched the films. Christian, okay. Let's see. You're a dome, Christian. You prefer to be on top, Christian, or whatever it is. Christian Grey. There we go. Ghost. Hello. Been a while. Welcome in. If you're the ghost I'm thinking you are. If you're not the ghost I'm thinking you are, I apologize for, Tie me to the bed, Christian. There we go. That's how the whole book's gonna be if you guys make me read 50 Shades of Grey. The woman is gonna have Hagrid's voice through the whole thing, and then probably not have seen your stuff before. It's cool. All right, well, welcome in. We had another regular whose name was Ghost, but she's constantly changing her name, so I didn't know if just finally changed it to just Ghost or not. But I'm very glad that you've enjoyed the things that we do here. Welcome in. Bear, thank you for the stars over on Facebook, my friend. Shooting over the tavern, it is much appreciated. A girl I liked was reading it, but I did not help. Yeah. Milo, hello, how's it going? And again, for anyone who is looking for different portals, we have portals open here in the tavern on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok for whatever. The girl should have Snape's voice. You're a dumb Christian Grey. That would be creepy. And then just make him Hagrid, and then it's Hagrid and Sirius Snape going back and forth. I'm just telling you guys what will happen if you make me read the book. I'm gonna make you suffer as much as I do. It should be in a southern accent. You want the whole thing to be in a southern accent? I've never read that one, but I'd totally be in for a chapter using Hagrid's voice. Razzle, thank you for the Deenies. Lindsay, hello and welcome in. Thank you for the rose and for the lightning bolt. Hello. The whole thing you want done in a southern accent? Okay, hang on. Let's see, it's... Well, I'll be damned, Christian Grey. You're a dom. That would be dreadful. That would be absolutely terrible. Ghost, thank you for the follow. You have marked the location of the tavern on your map, and now you should be able to find your way back whenever you like. Oh, you need me to do this southern accent. Santana, how's it going, my friend? Good to see you. Welcome. Ashley says she spat out her wine. I don't know any of the actual lines from the book, so that was just me assuming things that would be said. 50 Shades of Castle, says Esther. See all the 50 Shades of Grey, bit steamy, good story otherwise. Matt, I think Castle's not seeing the comment. I have a hard time catching Matt's comments because he comments so fast. 50 Shades of the Tavern. I'm officially dead. Don't die on me, Matt. We need you. Oh, the South is turning in their graves, I'm sure. New point tier for Southern accent. I think the lady might die if I did so. You're not far off, thanks, Mom. Take it one step further. Done is Forrest Gump. Oh.
Oh my god.
Hang on, let me see if I can do the Forrest Gump accent. Hang on. They say Christian Grey's like a box of chocolates. You never know when you're gonna get hit. Is that close? No, it needs to be a little bit more, but I think that was...
Lumiere and the feather duster.
Lumiere and the feather duster. we just learned last week, though, that I can't do the French accent, though. No, all of my French was coming out sounding very German. Silverfang, thank you for the W. I appreciate you for that. Bethany, hello and welcome in. I need to work on my impressions more. I haven't been training my voice like I used to. I used to be able to do tons of accents and tons of impersonations, but the lady has made me more comfortable than I used to be, so I didn't have any need to do it anymore. Milo says, I love when you test out your accents and voices. I used to do it, I used to be very good, and I haven't practiced in a very long time. But you guys are reminding me why I love to do it. Because it is a hell of a lot of fun. And here I thought, grating of, it's not allowed. It's not allowed, man. You need to bring out your inner Cleese. Yeah, that's true. Esther says 50 Shades of Apple Intelligence. That's terrifying. That's terrifying. Ashley, thank you for the DDs. Leon, thank you for the DD, my friend. Tips to the Tavern Keeper are always appreciated. Okay, well, this was very silly, but now I have things. We have things that we have to do. Your impressions are fantastic, but your natural accent is even better. Well, thank you, Lindsay. I appreciate you, love. Alright, let's see what we have here real quick. So, I have a short story that was written by none other than our dear friend Frost. Mr. Frost of the Beard has written a short story about the tavern. So again, this is probably really only going to be exciting for those of you who are regulars. But it is very heartfelt, it is very wonderful, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. So I wanted to share it with all of you. You clipped the Christian Grey Forrest Gump. Thank you, I appreciate that. That certainly needed to live forever on the internet. Give me just a moment. Are you in Tavern Purgatory? You might be Martin, but also hello, good to see you, my friend. Yeah, no, you did a very good job of balancing out because so the story. What is going on? Hang on. Are you mining something over there, Lovey?
Sorry. Smacking some people.
Okay, no, that's fine. I just thought that the music that I had going had like squishing noises on it, and I was like, what is this? I've not heard this remix, huh?
You could hear it?
I can hear something. It sounds like squishing or smacking, or crunching or something of the like.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm not crazy. That was right. So this story is from Frost's perspective, and of course the persons mentioned by name are the ones who Frost interacts with the most in the tavern. So it is quite lovely and it's very heartfelt, and I think that you're all going to enjoy it as it is Frost's imagined origin of the Black Dragon Tavern. This is not for the competition. This was something that Frost just sent me independently, Esther. But there is a place over in the guild where stories can be submitted. Denise says I would love to hear it. I would love to share it with all of you. We're gonna do it right now. So the story is called A Night at the Tavern. As my mind runs through the past few days, my feet keep me going in the right direction. I have been on this path many times, many more times than I can remember. Turn after turn brings me closer to my home away from home. Anyone that was following me would think I was wandering into the woods, but they couldn't be further from the truth. Rounding the final curve behind a grove of trees, I see it. A small set of standing stones marking what looks like a druid circle. I head to the right, coming to the third set of stones, stopping in front of them, turning to face into the circle. My hands reaching out to caress the familiar surface, smooth and cool to the touch, but a welcomed feeling all the same. Before I step between the upright stones to stand in the archway, I look up to see the all too familiar mark of the black dragon reaching up. I touch a series of spots to on the cover stone and step through. The portal opening as I do, then closing once I'm completely through. You see, the Black Dragon Tavern is only known to those that love lore and stories. Its very existence arose from the desire to give adventurers a place to rest their tired bodies and enjoy the telling of grand tales. There are some stories that are told for the sake of learning, and others for the joy of entertainment. Yet no matter the reason, it is the stories themselves that draw the travelers here time and time again. It has become my home while I am traveling, and I have family here that I have grown to love. I am sure if I ask the others who frequent the tavern, that it has become the same for them as well. It is shown in the way we all guard the sanctity of the tavern. It is a place of comfort, solace, and community that is held in high regard. Anyone who dares disturb this sacred space is quickly dealt with in one way or another. Makes it sound like I murder people. I don't, I promise you. Kai Sifax, thank you for the follow. And Literacy Fairy, thank you for a Literacy Fairy, huh? I hadn't heard of that type, but I welcome you to the tavern, friend. Once inside, my eyes take a few moments to adjust to the lighting. I inhale deeply, taking in all the familiar scents that have come to mean comfort and happiness. A small grin coming to my face as I do. The first sight to greet me is the familiar sign hanging over the bar. Welcome, traveler, take comfort and enjoy your stay. A black dragon's head looking over the top and its wings forming the frame. I, s- excuse me. I slowly take in all the familiar sights, and the troubles of my travels begin to fade away. There are pictures hung on the walls that were carved by patrons to celebrate their time here. Other small gifts are displayed around the room as well, all from travelers who supported the tavern in some way or another. Scanning the room, I see a lot of familiar faces and a few new ones. Nodding to the barkeep with a wink, I unsling my pack from my back as I start heading to my normal spot in the corner. The booming baritone voice echoes across the room. Frost, welcome back, brother. Grab a seat. The stories are just about to begin. I drop my pack on the floor and slide into my seat. Doing just that, Castle. So glad to be back home. I called back to the tavern owner. Castle, the owner of the tavern, is a mountain of a man. Oh, you flatter me. I'm like a lumpy hill of a man, but I appreciate the compliment. His look is that of a dwarf that is twice its normal size, standing a good head taller than most with a thick barrel chest and shoulders to match. Blush. The sides of his head shaved clean, only highlighting his dark hair that flowed down his back with a broad swath, matched by his long full beard that ran down to his chest. By his size and stature, one would think that Castle was a fighter through and through. Once again, a falsity. His family gave him two gifts to carry through his life. They taught him the barding ways so he could carry on his family traditions. They were storytellers and historians, keeping the ancient knowledge alive. At the same time, they showed him the family magic. His clan was druidic for as long as history had been recorded. It was always passed down from elder to youth, nurtured and tended as the younger family members discovered their talents. Some were adept with animals, others could heal. Castle had been blessed with the ability to shape change. As legend has it, one day while reading up on a family story of where his ancestors had shifted to the form one of his ancestors had shifted to the form of a black sea dragon. Castle had done the very same thing. Only his form was more of a land and air drake. It is the same legend that lent itself to the name of the very tavern he built. Once the young ones had reached the time of passing to being an adult, they were let in on the reason they were being given gifts at an early age. You see, the stories they told, and still tell to this day, are what keep the family's magic alive. I looked down briefly and then back up only to find the face of the barkeep smiling down at me. I smiled back and give another small wink. Evening, Scorch Queen. That's Captain Hoodie for those of you who are new. How goes the night? I ask. She chuckles before answering. It's a busy night, which is always a good thing. How have you trouble to make it for a story or two? I reply. Another good thing. What can we get you? She asked. A nice, strong, dark ale, if you have one left, I said. Coming right up, Frost, she stated, and she turned to head back to the bar. My attention turned to the rest of the patrons now. I catch a glimpse of Milu and Esther in their normal seats, enjoying drinks as they settle in for the upcoming entertainment. Esther's faithful pup Elsie curled up by her side, her head resting on Esther's lap as she starts to drift off. Then I spy Bear sitting at his table of tavern wares, doing his best to entice tavern goers to take something home in support of the establishment. Another portal flashes and a few more regulars wander in, Kai scooting up to the bar like always, immediately striking up a conversation with the captain. Matt followed her in, finding a table close to the stage, front and center where he could be seen by all. The seat next to him was still vacant, waiting on his better half, Rebecca. My eyes caught by Castle walking over to the opposite corner of the tavern, leaning down to give his beloved wife a touch of affection and make sure she was cared for. If ever there was a contrast between couples, it was them. Una was a waif of a woman compared to her husband, slight in figure with a demure carriage, her head barely reaching to her husband's shoulder. Their love for the tavern they had created was only outdone by the love they had for each other. A quick flash of light off of one of the small plaques caught my eye. They are attached to they are attached to almost every one of the stools and tables. Each one has a name and a small thank you for a donation made to help the tavern, marking a major change for all of us travelers, and where we heard the stories we love. The tavern wasn't always the long house of stone and timber we sit in today. Originally, the portals all led to a sacred grove that was protected in several ways. First was that it can only be reached through the portals. After that, there was a thick wall of thorns surrounding the grove. Several protective sigils and staves encircling the outside of the thorns. If that wasn't enough, there was a shimmering globe of magic shielding beyond both of those deterrents. The inside was very simple, but still comfortable and inviting. The stools were stumps to sit on, and the tables were made of stones. The bar was the only piece of furniture built from planks and sawed lumber, complete with shelves for storing tankards and bottles of mead. The stone central fire ring glowed with images of different woodland creatures. The trees that formed the walls let their branches to form a canopy over the tavern. Castle's original chair was made from the woven branches of a small oak tree, which was sung together by his wife Una. Yes, I said sung together. You see, Una is a spell singer and artificer, a master of her crafts with both magic and tools. Her craftsmanship could be seen throughout the tavern, starting with the sign that greets you. She designed the tankards, the bar stools, the bar and shelves behind it, even down to the candles that lit the room from table to rafters. Just about every bit of the tavern was sung into being by her. Then one day, Castle and Luna let it be known that they were looking for a new place to build a proper tavern. There were murmurs of surprise with the news. Soon after, there was a mention of the amount of gold they were trying to save to get the new tavern built, which caused something to happen that was unexpected and unprecedented. Slowly standing one by one, each and every traveler made their way to the stage. Once there, they stooped and set a few pieces of gold on the top step, in front of the oaken chair. Once they had made it back to their respective places, all remained standing. When the last tip made and the final traveler back to their seat, they all bowed towards the couple. Castle and Una stood speechless for a moment, until Castle started shaking his head. No, we didn't share our plans to ask for money. We can't take this from you. Your support has been, and always will be, more than we could have ever asked for. He looked down at Una, and she nodded in agreement. As if to make a final statement, Captain walked up and placed a few more pieces of gold on the stage. She turned around to face the couple. We are helping to build our home. You two created this for us. This is the least we could do. A loud cheer erupted from the rest of the patrons. Somewhere from the middle of the group arose a loud shout, "For the stories!" which was echoed by the whole tavern. The results are seen in those small plaques all over the tavern. Trees have a special place in Castle's clan, which is why the grove had been chosen at first. Now it has become time to create a new home for the sharing of stories. So when the new longhouse was built, 4 massive trees had been used to form the 4 corners. It was another sacred spot that Castle and Una had discovered. Nowhere else had they ever found these 4 types of trees growing near one another. An oak, an ash, a rowan, and an elm had found the same ground to spread their roots in that formed a natural boundary for the building. This time, the trees called to the storytellers. As if it wasn't enough, there was a hawthorn a short way off to guard the surrounding land. They took it as a sign and built the new tavern on that very spot. More portals flashed around, bringing me back from my memories. The tavern seats filling with more travelers. The call for stories, bringing them before the stories begin. I watch Wesley and Ashley and Crimson, Santana and other regulars take their normal seats, Castle greeting each of them as they entered. The captain was right. It was a very busy night. As if on cue, my ale was dropped off by the very woman I had just thought about. Thank you again, Captain. What a grand night this will be for sure. We haven't been this busy in a while. I'm really looking forward to it, the captain answered back. If you need a hand, just give me a shout, I called as she runs off. I get a wink and a smile from over her shoulder, and she keeps moving back to the bar. Make sure you get your drinks and settle in and grab a seat. It's almost story time, Castle announces to the tavern as he brings his tankard to the stage, setting it on the table next to his throne-like chair. His next stop was at the shelves on the walls behind the dais to choose the stories for the evening. Turning back around, he set down 2 gilt volumes with several bookmarks throughout each one. Then, with a wave of his hand, the candles around the stage lit. To those new to the tavern, this was an amazing sight. To those of us who were regulars, it was a sign of good things to come. He then takes his seat and opens one of the books he took down. He clears his throat and looks back up at the tavern. For those of you who are new here, I am Castle, and this is my tavern. And here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore, and every now and again, I might read you a bedtime story. So sit back and enjoy, for we have all come here for the same thing, to share in some stories. He looks down at the pages open before him and launches into the first tale, his voice weaving a tapestry of sights and sounds before our very eyes. Each character identified by the distinct voice he gave them. As the story continues to unfold, the room transforms into the scenes he is masterfully translating. I did mention that the tavern was magical. This is how it all happens. As Castle weaves the stories, our visions bring them to life. You see, the desire to hear a tale is all the magic that is needed for the tavern to come alive. And that was written by our friend Frostbeard, and what a hell of a story it was. The sound of your reading helps calm my soul. Thank you. Of course, Tiffany, I'm glad that you were able to join us. Gigi, thank you for the follow, and Mama Shark, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the tavern, my friends. Kayla, hello, good to see you. Thank you for the rose. Molly, hello, hello, welcome in. What an excellent story. Absolutely wonderfully done. I do find it absolutely exceptional that Frost loves this place and all of you so much that he wrote a story about you. I mean, he had Esther. Esther says, "What a wonderful story! Thank you for sharing." He had Esther there, sitting up front with her lovely pup Elsie. Moonraven, hello, hello. Might pop in and out. I'm chatting with a friend. Absolutely all right, Raven. I'm so glad that you dropped in tonight. Jill, good to see you. Hello, hello. Now we have one more thing before we begin story time, my friends. We have sadly had a passing amongst the kin of our regulars, and I was asked to give a final send-off to someone who is very dear to the bear. Now, for those of you who don't know Bear, Bear is John Parks, and he is our, as you heard in the story, he is the resident wares peddler. Whenever he is on, he makes sure that I remind you all that I have things that you can purchase to support the tavern, including my book that talks about our festivals. And he has found a great deal of love in this place. The bear stumbled into the tavern when he was injured and far away from home, and he found great comfort and respite, and then at the same time found a great number of comrades and friends here during some of his hardest times. And sadly, his uncle Ron has passed away. The man's full name was Ronald George Morrison. He was born in probably one of the worst years a person could have been born. Born on the 19th of January, if I'm reading correctly, the 19th of January, 1937. One of the hardest years in world history, at least in recent times. And he passed away on the 17th of December. Yesterday for Bear, today for us. 2024. He was a son, a brother, a husband, a father, an uncle, a great uncle, a grandfather, a great grandfather. He was a jockey, a bridge and road builder, a jack of all trades, a larrikin in a rat bag. That's very colourful language, Bear. A man with more stories to tell than there was time to tell. He was caring and strict. He always had time for family. But he was tough as old horses' nails, in spite of being gentle and kind. And full of life until the very end, until there was no more to give. And in honor of his passing, now, I don't know if any of you are familiar with how we handle passings in my family, in the clan. We don't mourn folk after they are gone, we remember their stories. We make a high point of carrying on the tales of those who have influenced us and who we've loved over time. And rather than sending them off mourningly and with sadness, we devote to remembering their song and remembering their story, and we make as much noise as we can as they leave, so they know that we're fine and not to come back this way. We sing great songs, we cry out as they pass on, so that they know that they're headed in the right direction, away from us and into their final resting place, a long adventure into the last march they have to make. And the bear has requested that I give him a blast on the raid horn in honor of his final voyage. So we shall do so. If you've never heard this before, your ears might be in danger of bleeding, like when I sing, so go ahead and cover them up if you're at worry. Here is to the final voyage of Ronald George Morrison, my friends. May his song live forever, and his story inspire generations to come. May he pass on with glory and peace. And Bear, just in case you can't see it, you have folk from all across the Tavern board wishing love and peace for your family in the time of loss, my friend. Ian, how goes it, my friend? Well, you're coming in at the end of a vigil, but welcome, glad to see you. What a raspberry blowhorn. Some Viking raspberries to send off good old Ron. Alright, friends and companions, with that being said, shall we begin story time? We are just after the point where they've discovered they're going to have to fight dragons. Thank you, Ashley. I'm glad that you enjoyed. Official Mama, I can't see the whole name, but what is it? Official Mama, thank you for the team bracelet and the heart me. And Jazz, thank you for the subscription over on TikTok. Thank you kindly. Your support is deeply appreciated. It's my pleasure, Bear. And thank you for all of the positivity and love you bring in here every day. I hope that your uncle is marching off with great joy, knowing that he's left behind a fantastic legacy. Zerolith, my friend, hello, hello. Lurk away, brother. I'll let him know, Frost. Frost has sent you a message over on the guild, Bear. And then John Bear says, thank you all very, very much. Your thoughts mean the world to me, as do you all. You sound much better than the last time I caught you. I hope the lady is better. We are much better. We are well on the mend. Thank you, Lisa. Ian, thank you for the Deanies. And Tiffany, thank you for the heart me. Tips to the Tavern Keeper are always appreciated. I raise my glass to Ron as he embarks on his new journey. Crystal, thank you. It is deeply appreciated. Thank you, my friends. May he take his place at the table of the King of Kings. Precisely. And Denise also sends hugs. Truly awe-inspired story, says Petra for Frost's story. I just wish I could reply. I don't know. The replies on Facebook have been odd for a while, Esther. I don't know quite what's wrong with them, but some people can do it and some people can't. No, I have to keep it in, otherwise you'll all think I'm trying to compete. I don't want to do that. Go back in time 3 years and tell my daughter Chloe that she's loved and her life is worth living. Sorry, I shouldn't have dumped that. Wait, Martin. Extrapolate for me, Martin. David, I didn't see you drop in. I'm well. How are you doing? It's good to see you. I'm glad that you've been able to join us. I didn't see you pop in, but hello, my friend. Good to see you. Martin, could you go ahead and extrapolate for me what you mean? Because you have to understand that if you guys have things that you are going through, and you would... Because we handle tragedy and success together in my clan. Now, it's not like... It's not as though you can come here and get a whole lot of sympathy because, frankly, I'm not very good at those sorts of things. But one of the things that I love about the way my family handles tragedy is that we handle it collectively. It is something that we handle together always. So when someone has gone through something or when someone has lost something, we work on it together. We find solutions together. We are there to support and walk through, because you can only keep on living if you give it the absolute best effort that you can. And the best way you can honor those who have passed on is by giving your absolute best effort. Marina says, this community is so wonderful. The love we have for each other, it definitely is unique. I'm so glad I found this family. Not me over here tearing up over this. My daughter committed suicide 3 years ago today. Well, Martin, I'd say that is most definitely worth you sharing that departure. Yeah, that's not something you need to feel the need to censor yourself on. As a matter of fact, it's probably the best time that you could have told us. Because here's the thing, is we believe in what is called the long journey in my family, in my clan. We believe in the long journey. One of the reasons why the eldest son shaves the head like this when the parents pass on is it's respective of the journey that those parents have to take. And we believe that those who have passed along help to guide those who are already on the path. Those who are already heading in, and it's an arbitrary number for those who are outside of what we believe in the clan, but we believe that journey takes 5 years. And so, what is beautiful about you bringing this to us today is it means that your daughter, who you lost to a terribly unfortunate sickness, when sadness is a sickness. Sadness is not the natural state of man. If you are sad, if you are always sad, if sadness is so overwhelming it makes you not want to be here, it is a sickness. Sadness is one of the greatest sicknesses that afflicts us today, and it is aggravated and inflamed by the attitudes that people have on the internet and the way that our leadership and those who we're supposed to be able to rely on, the way that they handle things. That sadness is constantly inflamed, and it becomes a terrible sickness in the heart. Which is why we don't allow drama or fighting or bickering in the tavern, because this is not a place to perpetuate sadness. And she was 20 years old, which means that the sickness took her far younger than anyone should ever have to be taken. But what's beautiful about you bringing this tonight is that Bear's uncle passed on today. And that means that there's a very good chance that because you and Bear have become close, that at least in the way that the song of the ancestors works in my family, it means that at the very least, if Ronald gets lost along the way, Mr. Ronald Morrison gets lost along the way, your daughter will be there to help pull her along. To help pull him along, I apologize. Get him out of the bushes, as it were. Tyson, if you've got something to say, I think now would probably be the time to say it. I'm sending all my love to you, Martin, and your family, because it's never easy to lose someone that we love. It's not easy to lose a pet. It's not easy to lose a parent. It's not easy to lose a sibling, or even just someone that you care about. But it is terribly difficult to lose a child. As we extend our deepest sympathies to Martin, our thoughts are with you during this difficult time. If you don't mind, what was your daughter's first name, Martin? If you wouldn't mind telling me. Is it bad to look on those who died during my life, on how they lived, and not miss them? We don't practice any sort of mourning in my clan. We don't practice any sort of longing for them to still be here. We celebrate the life they lived. We celebrate what they achieved, what they were, who they were. So don't go about hurting yourself, Martin, because that's most certainly not how your daughter would want you to handle things. And I know that that's what people always say. But I can certainly tell you that no one who loves you and who you love would want you to hurt yourself because of them. I mean, you've already made the decision, but Chloe, Louise, Michael. Stephanie, hello. You've come in at a somber moment. I apologize. We were holding a vigil for a few kindred of the tavern who have lost their lives. My grandmother passed away in 2019 from stuff related to smoking in her youth. I feel to anyone who lost those loved ones, my condolences to Martin. I'll say this, Martin. Your daughter she is gone. And you are in every right to be sad at the terrible sickness that took her. Physical pain may not hurt when you're numb from the inside, but it does hurt. And there's no point in abusing yourself for your regrets. Because that is what is truly hurtful. What is truly causing you pain is the regrets. The regrets and the what ifs and the why nots. Why couldn't I have done this? What if I had done that? And there's no greater pain than having to bury a child. It is a dreadful thing. I worked with troubled youth for many years, and they were not my children, but I saw many children buried. Many children who I was very close to, and even that was very difficult. Esther says, this is an emotionally charged evening. I do not typically experience such intense emotions, but it's deeply saddening to learn about the passing of Bear's uncle and Martin's daughter. Elsie and I extend our heartfelt condolences to Bear and Martin. I'll say this as a final note, because I don't want to linger for too long. And Martin, everyone around is saying that their hearts are with you. Zarla says, my grandmother passed away in pandemic isolation in a nursing home 4 years ago. I had to face my rage, my true, well-placed rage. There are so many things that can take people from us physically. But she's cremated, she's right beside you. She lives inside of you now, Martin, as you would have lived in her. And it is hard, it is a burden that you carry. But that burden is a privilege, not a curse. You carry on the life she lived and you keep her alive. So I say this. May Chloe's name live forever in your heart, and in the hearts of all of us here who know her story. And may her song ring out for all of time, even long after those of us who remember her name have forgot it, and her ashes have been scattered to the wind. May her and Ronald and all those that we lose, may their songs make the flowers bloom, make the sea be cool, and the clouds be soft and beautiful, until the very last moment that time gives us. Death gets a bad rap, but death is not our enemy. Death is all of our eventualities. And death, whether we want to believe it or not, is on our side. Death does everything that he can to keep us alive and cheer us on through the worst of things. And when he finally greets us, he congratulates us on what we were able to do and tells us that he was in our corner the whole of time. So, with that, thank you all for sharing your grief with us here. It means the world that you feel safe enough to do so. Thank you, Ashley. Blue Race Girl, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Well, this was a bit more somber than I was hoping to start the evening, but I'm very glad that you all brought your celebrations here to us. Absolutely a beautiful evening, and I appreciate that you all felt so comfortable doing so. Yes, as Quirt over on Twitch has said, thank you for sharing this moment with the Tavern. I didn't see another message from you, Bethany. Are your messages? Some of your messages aren't showing up for me, Bethany. All I have, yeah, we just scrolled up a good way. I have I don't know if that counts. And then I have, my friend is a good friend from college. That's all I have. Love your progress over the years. Thank you, Dakota. I appreciate you very much for that. And this is why I call the Tavern home and all inside my family. The TikTok word block is at it again. Yeah, TikTok blocks any sort of words that are considered triggering, so. Thank you, Martin. Thank you for trusting us enough with your grief, my friend. Best man on YouTube for educating people about our people and faith. Keeping up the great work, my friend. Raise a drink and celebrate your accomplishments. Are you talking about me, Bear? That seems overly generous, but... A glass raised to those who are no longer with us. Take a draught. For those who have passed. Remember, don't ever pour out your drink. Just drink it for them, it'll pour itself out over time. My friend lost a family member to self-unaliving a few months ago. I see. Yeah. And again, the sadness, sickness affects so many people. And as I've told many of you before, I was not a good man in my younger years. I spent a long time doing a great number of terrible things that some of you may not care for me anymore if you were to come upon them. I was a young man in a situation of very little guidance and overwhelming rebellion. And my early era, even telling stories, I was more of a troll than I was anything else. Because I love a good dark joke. I love being explosive and more than a little bit over the top. But I realize that there are so many people who capitalize on the drama and play on the negative emotions of people. And it is easy to make money that way on the internet. It's very easy to make money doing that in the space that we're in. But I decided several years ago, the lady and I did, that that wasn't what we wanted to do anymore. We decided that this would be a place where people could come for stories, and where people could come to get away from the overwhelming sadness and drama of the world. And I don't want this to be anything but that. Judge not the man for his past, but for his present. One should hope. One should hope, Dakota. I don't expect that from anyone. I know that many people judge based on the smallest of complications, but I won't apologize for who I was, because who I was made me who I am. I won't regret my past, regardless of how monstrous some of the things may have been, because who I was made me who I am. And I likely never would have gotten to the point of understanding that I'm at if it hadn't been for those things. So he's having a very rough time of it right now. Official Mama says, I lost my sister last week. Lots of folks taking the long journey this month. And you do that for all of us, and we are forever grateful for your beautiful, beautiful soul is bright. But thank you, Ashley. The kicker is the family member was the brother of his cousin, and he lost about 10 years ago to self-unaliving. Yeah, that is absolutely dreadful. One of my cousins took his own life when he discovered that the woman he was in a relationship with was marrying someone else. See, and this is what I mean, is that the sickness of sadness, because human beings are not meant to be sad. We're not. Human beings are not meant to be sad. Now, that doesn't mean we're always meant to be happy, but we're not meant to be sad. We're meant to find contentment and consistency. We're meant to be resilient and to persevere, and human beings have an infinite potential. But we hear people tell us all the time that we don't, that we're not resilient, that we're not filled with endurance. And when we're told that often enough, we believe it. Because nothing kills you that doesn't kill you, and I know that sounds obvious, But if you lived through the thing, you were strong enough to live through the thing. Whatever it is, whatever the trial was, if you live through it, you live through it. I wasn't either my friend, but like you, I turned my life around. If we can do it, anyone can. I agree with that. We all have a past. Who we are now and who we are trying to become is what defines who we are. I do agree with that. I do agree with that. What is wrong with signs of personal growth? I think that signs of personal growth are the staple of human nature. What makes the human animal absolutely beautiful. But many people would rather look on the faults and failures of the human animal, of our fellow human beings, than to ever forgive them for the wrongs that they have done, because many people are so weak and so sad that they have to cling to the sadness of others to make them feel powerful. And we see that a lot in our day and age. We see a great many people cling to the sadness and failures of others to make them feel powerful. And it is tragic. Bears over on TikTok says we are meant to keep homeostasis. In a simple sense, yes. It is sad and we miss them, but love lives on in our heart and in our memories. Absolutely. I hate the man who I used to be, but he'll always be a part of me. Gotta make the most of it. Death makes us stronger once the storm passes. I learned that firsthand many, many times. And I don't know, and I don't mean to contradict you, other bear over on YouTube. I don't think that it is kind to yourself. I don't think that it is right to hate who you were. You can say that you don't want to be that person anymore or ever again, but hating them leads to a certain level of self-loathing, and that leads to that sadness. And I don't think that that is ever something that you should want for yourself. You can say that I am no longer that man, nor will I ever be that man or that woman ever again. I would modify, we aren't meant to be sad. We aren't meant to be chronically sad. And Buddy NC, I apologise. I missed your message. I'm originally from Southern Ireland, but I grew up between Cork, Limerick, Down, Galway, and I spent my last couple of years in Northern Ireland with my grandfather, just outside of Belfast. If we aren't sad ever, we can't truly appreciate being happy. That's all right, love. You are right. I spent my last 2 years in Belfast, which is Northern Ireland, so you're not wrong. But I spent most of my childhood in Southern Ireland. The words of Samwise Gamgee come to mind, that there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for. I would agree with that. Absolutely, Crystal. We all have a past. Who we are now and who we are trying to become is what defines who we are. I would agree with that as well. Not wrong, also not correct in the limbo of both, right? Right. Well, one might argue that I spent the latter part of my childhood, the time when you actually are growing up, was in Northern Ireland, so not an incorrect answer. I will say, in response to what you've said, Bethany, I say that we are not meant to be sad, because sadness is meant to be fleeting. And the state of being sad, to feel sadness is one thing. To be sadness is an entirely different thing. Madison, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the Tavern. So very glad that you could join us. And that's what I mean. You are correct. But what I mean when we are not meant to be sad is that we as a being are not meant to embody sadness. Sadness is supposed to pass through us like a breath. It's supposed to go through us like a thought. It's not meant to linger on us like a storm that never passes. Sadness is meant to be something that lives only for a moment in us, and then we are meant to celebrate. Because we're not always meant to be happy either. Happiness is not the natural state of man. So if you're constantly chasing happiness or constantly lingering on sadness, it makes the human being miserable. So, are there any stories behind your ring? All of mine do. I'm just curious if they are similar. Our rings are just similar, so I'm curious. There are. So I used to have double this amount of them, and they were adornments from festivals that I participated in as a boy. Most of them, including the chain that I wear, were all adornments or prizes for different festival events I won growing up from my grandfather. All of them were hand forged by one of my uncles. But sadly, about 15 years ago, no, I'm sorry, it would have been about 9 years ago, 9 or 10 years ago. My parents' house was robbed, which is where all of my things were, and all of my adornments were stolen, including my handmade kilts, my suits, a lot of my collectibles. I had a very large. This is going to sound a bit out of place, but along with my adornments and my kilts, my video games were also stolen. I was a big collector of retro video games, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Magic the Gathering, things like that. And all of that was stolen as well. I had a retro collection of films and movies, old books. I had an old German Bible from 1822 that had been handed down to me by my grandfather, as well as a couple of other old journals, as well as some of my journals and a signed first edition of The Hobbit. All of these things were in my parents' home and they were stolen. So these rings, specifically this one and this one, were given to me by my mother as a replacement because she felt bad. I don't know where they came from. I think that this one might have come from Grimfrost. I don't know where this one came from. But they were gifted to me by my mother before she died, in an attempt to replace that which was lost. And I didn't wear them before she passed because when we have adornments, they have to be earned, and that's a part of our clan culture. And my mother knew that, but she got them symbolically so that they would be a symbolic representation of what was lost. And then when she passed away very suddenly back in 2018, I decided to start wearing them again. This is a clada that was made by. It was a design. It was designed by one of my uncles, and these were just infinity rings that were put on to replace two other infinity rings that I had had at some point. And again, they were replacements for old adornments that were stolen a great many years ago. Did Tyson share what was going on with him? I might have missed the comment. All these may seem contradictory in the tavern setting, but I need help and advice to quit drinking. Alright, I missed your initial comment. I hope you regain that which was lost and find better. Thank you, Brelin. I appreciate that, my friend. I was AFK, but here listening. I'm very sorry to hear about your daughter. I hope you find peace to Martin. Hey, I collect Bionicles. It was one of the only things as a kid that took my mind off of the trauma I was experiencing. The other was Pokemon. I loved collectibles and retro video games when I was a kid, but I never could afford them. So as an adult, I ended up buying these things, and then they were all stolen in my mid-20s. So the stories are almost identical, except for them getting stolen. It was quite unfortunate, but is what it is. Erin, hello, good to see you. I am also on Twitch right now, Dakota, and if you follow on Twitch, the Lady of the Tavern and I also do some game stories every now and again. We play story-rich games, or sometimes we'll just play silly, relaxing stuff to spend time with the community. So that only happens on Twitch. We don't do that anywhere else. So if you are interested in games or more modern storytelling, then I've been following since you played Have you really? That was a long time ago. That was a very long time ago. Sorry about your things getting stolen. I appreciate you, Aaron. It was more my fault than anyone else's. They were valuable to me, and I didn't find a better place for them. And I lived in not exactly great areas when I was a younger man, so it, it it is a sad thing, but I don't tend to mourn after what was lost that cannot be retrieved. So Tyson, to answer your question, if any of you are dealing with an addiction that you're having a hard time getting over, first of all, you have to understand that your brain latches on to things that make it feel or not feel things that it does or does not want to feel. It's Dakota! Does the followage... I don't know if followage works. Hang on. Yeah, you just have to do it by itself. So that should work. Oh, I'm not following myself. How dreadful. I think you just have to do it alone in the comment to get it. There you go. Destiny, almost 5 years. You're coming up on your 5-year anniversary over there. It's kept in a lockbox and I wear it when I want to remember her. And that's the smart way to do it. I left mine in some cabinets and bookshelves in my parents' house in a very bad neighborhood. So... That's odd. Nostalgia. Dakota, are you sure you're following? Because it looks like it's saying that you're not. Yeah, there's Shadow, 4 years, 1 month. Quirt. Milo, 7 months. Quirt, it didn't work for you either, which is odd. Why is it not working for the two of you? There we go, now it worked. 3 years, 10 months, 24 days. Marina, 7 months. Quirt, try again. Did it pop up for you? I don't think it did. It did not. Try again, Quirt. Yeah, Stream Elements was just being overloaded. What's up? Been a while. Work's been crazy. Well, Tony, I'm glad you made it back in. We were having a bit more of a heartfelt conversation tonight. Haven't even gotten to stories yet. 4 years, 3 days, 10 hours. There we go. Quite a while. I've been with the Tavern for nearly a year, that's correct. If you're struggling from being addicted to anything, remember that your brain is always looking for the easiest way to feel good. And good times, I genuinely enjoy this community you've all built. Well, Quirt, you've been here for a very long time, so that means you've helped to build it. That's weird. It's weird that worked. Oh, I thought that... Okay. Calamitous, you've been here for almost 4 years. It's quite a while. Everyone who needs a digital hug gets a digital hug from Rachel. Understand that if you're trying to break an addiction, the harder you try, the more difficult it's going to be. Because you're going to constantly be thinking about it. The only thing that you can do, really, is replace that bad habit with a better one and correlate it with a reward. And if you need some more discussion on that, Tyson, feel free to message me, and I'd be more than happy to help walk you through how the clan handles these things, because we do have ways that we deal with that sort of thing. Yeah, I've been following you since you were discussing your own family traditions on TikTok. It inspired me to learn more about my family history, being a 5th-generation US citizen, and the great-great-grandfather coming over in 1900. That's beautiful, Dakota. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, we used to do a lot more stories about my family and our traditions, but we've had now three instances of people trying to dox us and send people to my house because we talked about family traditions and they didn't like it, because it doesn't line up with a lot of the normal or academically accepted traditions. So we've had threats from people all over. We had people trying to find us. We had people trying to find my grandfather. So I've had to dial back significantly on talking about family things outside of the guild and whatnot. But I still tell a family story every now and again, and we'll get some people who get upset by it. But bugger them. I don't particularly care at this point. It's always Glock o'clock in the tavern. So if they want to show up, if they want to show up, they can show up. We'll just say that. Crystal, thank you for the stars. I appreciate you. Thank you kindly. Tips to the tavern keeper always appreciated. Been around since you were breaking down different mythology stories, nearly 3.5 years now. Been a hell of a ride. Fuck those people who are treating you like that, Tavern Keep. Thank you, Bear. I appreciate you saying that. What? Why did it delete that? Did it? Oh, it's because you used. It's because you used foul language. Hang on. Can I untime you out? That's all right. I didn't realize we had the profanity filter on for the lives. You're 100% fine, Bear. You're all right. Don't worry about it. You have my big burly South African husband too to add some backup. I appreciate you, Ashley. I appreciate that. Last time I talked to you, something about you were publishing a book. It might have been the Norse Gaelic Festivals book, Tony, which that one did end up getting published. That was 2 years ago, though, so I don't think it was that long ago. We're currently working on a psychological thriller fantasy novel called The Book of Grimm right now. I should have that one, the first book, done this month. And then we're also working on a much larger project called The Creatures of Yggdrasil, which is a novelized journey through the creatures of Norse mythology. I've got anger issues and a mean right hook. Those are always useful. Someone keeps prank calling me with cops. Now, when they show up, I just say, "Want to watch Disney Plus while you're all wasting taxpayer dollars?" And they just leave. That's funny, Matt. That's actually really funny. I'm sorry to bring this topic to the. Don't be sorry to bring the topic to the tavern, Tyson. If you're struggling, reach out to people who you know will help. That's one of the biggest problems with society today is that we spend so much time running away from our problems and hiding them that we don't ever address them directly and it ends up eating us alive. So don't apologize for wanting help with a problem. If you genuinely want to fix the problem, then you can find that help here. And you will find the support that you need with people who genuinely want the best for you. Sheila, thank you for the Deenies over on TikTok. I didn't see those come in. Thank you kindly. 50% of the goal, and I haven't even started reading yet. And here we are, an hour and a half in. I apologize. Been an hour and a half of just me babbling about. I think there would be a line of us that would show up if anyone tried anything stupid. I appreciate that, you all. And yeah, it's one of those things where I grew up in very bad neighborhoods after I moved to the US. I am not particularly worried about anyone coming to bother us. I just don't want the lady to have to clean up unmentionables because I had to defend our home. You know what I'm saying? I will do absolutely anything to protect my Keith and kin. So there's nothing that can be. Don't wait. Being in the medical field, I see people waiting way too long to get help. Absolutely, Tony. Do not wait for help if you need it. Reach out to people who you know will care. Might I make a suggestion? Go straight to reading The Magician since we skipped it last Sunday. That would be fine. I think that we can do that. We can go. That's going to upset Tonks over on YouTube. Tonks only shows up for Harry Potter, but I would say that that's fair. Since we didn't do any magician on Sunday, I think we can do that. Blood is very difficult to clean up. It is. Always Glock o'clock is a great line. I should get that. It should be the sub sign for the tavern when we finally open the doors. Welcome to the Black Dragon Tavern. Grab a seat, enjoy a story and a drink, and then right underneath it, P.S. It's always Glock o'clock in the tavern. Let's see, how long is this? Ooh, this is a very long chapter. Let's see, it's 18, well, I guess it's not terribly long. Let me see. H2O2 will make blood disappear. Thank you, Bears. I appreciate the tip. Aaron says, honestly fine with whatever. I usually fall asleep. I find that to be, again, for those of you who feel well enough to fall asleep here in the tavern, I consider that to be a compliment. Because to be comfortable enough to fall asleep around what is essentially a large group of strangers. Okay, so let's see, that's 33, so that's 20 pages. Alright, let's do this. I think we're gonna do, we're only gonna do outward shanties tonight, so we'll only sing at the end. We're only gonna do outward shanties tonight, we'll only sing at the end. Let's do this, let's do... There's a break in the story here in Magician. So we have 7 pages. Let's do 7 pages of Magician, and then we'll do 1 chapter in Harry Potter, and then we'll come back and we'll do another 4 or 5 pages in Magician. That way everybody gets a little bit of something before it gets too late. I usually sleep in silence. I appreciate that, Aaron. I appreciate that. They're very soothing to listen to, my man. I'm guilty of it too. How late do you usually run this? I usually fall asleep before it's over. We usually go till about 9:30, 10 o'clock, my time. So 9:30, 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time is the usual. Alright, so we're going to do this. We're going to read 7 pages in Magician. Then we're going to read chapter 20 in Harry Potter. And then we're going to come back and we're going to read another 4 or 5 pages in Magician. I think that is a good way to balance it out, since we didn't get any Magician last week. And that way the folk who are here, who are on the East Coast, can get a little bit of Magician. And we'll also still get the Harry Potter for the Harry Potter lovers here. Be back in a little bit. I'm going to check on my holiday lights. I will be back, and luckily I can always backtrack. Spectacular. You missed the end of book 1. Wait, what did Milu say? If I'm not here chatting and saying goodbye at the end of the night, I've fallen asleep. I fall asleep here often. Shadow says, me too. That is also true, Matty. Was a rough one. Too late. You played Borderlands 2 till 11 p.m. last night. Yeah, that was very late. But it took us a long time to get everything up and running. I hate cutting the story times and the times with you guys. I hate cutting it short. Because you guys come in here and you spend your time with us. I hate cutting the time that you have with us short. I don't like to do that. So if I start late, I like to give you the time that you've been promised, at the very least. Hey, Herring, been lurking in the corner over there. That's alright. Good to see you, my friend. I hope you've got your drink and so on. Okay, I need to turn on the cooler real quick, friends. I'll be right back. How are you playing? Sample?
I'm taking some photos to submit.
Taking photos to submit.
Yeah, I was saying they have a competition going on right now.
They have a photo. That is not what I thought you meant by photo competition.
What do you think?
I thought you meant like cosplay or something.
Yeah.
Yes, Webadeb. Well, actually, right at the moment we're reading Magician, but after a few pages in this, we will be reading Harry Potter. I could listen to you talk for days. I appreciate all the effort you put in to all you do. Oh, Fred, well, thank you, Bear. I appreciate that. We now have 3 bears in in the tavern. We have Old Bear, we have Bear Gibson, and we have Bears. Whoop, hang on. TikTok's trying to boot us off again. Hang on. Constantly trying to Shanghai us out of the plot. Which, by the way, friends, I don't know how the TikTok ban is going to go. So if any of you are attached to the tavern and the stories that we tell here, strongly recommend either joining the guild or following over on YouTube, marking the map there, because I will keep creating here until the very end. I love TikTok. I think TikTok is wonderful. It's one of the best portals that we've had for bringing new folk into the tavern. But obviously there's not a whole lot I can do to combat a federal government in that front. So, a throne fit for the king of storytelling, Tyson. All hail the chair, says Tyson. Oh, you guys are something else. All right. Yeah, we still do shorter videos over on Instagram. You'll get a little bit. So the content that goes out, I try and put out everything that we make everywhere. The only thing that's different about YouTube, according to rather than anywhere else, is YouTube is the only place we put out long videos, because long videos just don't get shown to anyone anywhere else. But short content is pretty much the same all across the board, so you can follow at your preferred place. But each platform has some things that are a little bit different. So, if you want, you can join there's a Facebook group on Facebook, and there is a group over on Instagram, and I will start sharing all of the things that we put out in those places to make sure that you can get them, and links to everything we do end up being posted in the guild as well. So if you're attached to any of the things and you want to make sure you get them, any one of those 3 places you can make sure that you get there. Cap, we would rather you feel better and get a late warning than you being miserable and hurting just to play. Don't make me tell mom on you. Right, exactly that. Bless you, lovey. I'm following on YouTube as well. Awesome, Dakota. It flatters me that you guys like the things that we do so much, that you come into all the tavern through all of these different places. It really does mean the world to us, because we love what we do. Herring says, "Good Sunlight." We really love what we do here in the tavern, and we love that you all hold it so dear. I never go on Instagram or YouTube. Not true, I've been listening to the Pogues for days. Fairy Tale of New York is my favorite Christmas song. I very much want to sing Fairy Tale of New York, but I think it would get us banned. It's got just 2 words in it that I'm pretty sure I can't say on either, but I don't want to change the song because it's the spirit of the song, you know. I follow on YouTube too. Excellent, Aaron. I'm glad. I'm on all of the portals, if I'm not mistaken. I think so, Frost. I think so. I have a tavern leash at this point. I gotta put my cub back down to sleep. I'll be back. Alright, Bear, do what you got to do. You know, the owner of Arizona Tea started off with a beer called Midnight Dragon. I did not know that. Yeah, what's funny is that Instagram is the place we reach the most amount of people. But like, based on what, because I think we have like 14 or 15,000 people who follow us on Instagram, who've marked the map over there. And we reach the most amount of people based on our following there, because we have almost 100,000 people on Facebook, and we reach maybe 2,000, but I'll reach between 1,000 and 5,000 people on Instagram. It's very odd. The algorithms that these platforms use are wild and insane. That's why we have the newsletter, and that's why we have the guild and the groups, because there at least we know for sure you'll see the things that you want to see. I think I'm following it all, but I'm not sure. And you guys don't have to follow on everything. Follow on your preferred platform, but I appreciate those of you who mark the map in multiple places. Being in the tavern is the highlight of my week. I'm glad, Petra. It means the world to me. There are 3 words that I can think of, and only one that you could change. Right, and I love the Fairy Tale of New York. It's such a good song. But it is an old song, and today's sensibilities would find it to be offensive. Alright, friends, let us begin. We are on Chapter 19. Chapter 1 of Book 2. Called Milambo and the Valheru. Chapter 19 is called Slave. I don't think I knew you have an Instagram. And I really don't promote these things like I should. I really just... Yeah, you can sign up for the newsletter. We only put it out once every month or once every other month, depending. And Bear, thank you for the stars, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you kindly. Elsie here's boom. Oh, you know what? I completely forgot. Poor Rob cashed in a show me the doggo and show me the cat. And I was not even paying attention. Come here. Come say hello to everybody. You have a little bit of work to do. Earn your food. Get up here. Say hello. Up. Come on. Yep. Say hello. Earn your food. There he is. Look at the big, beautiful boy. Yeah. They have requested a viewership of the feline as well. This is Coda. He's a big goofball. He's got about 2 brain cells, and they're both fighting for 3rd place. And so is the cat.
He like shrinked away, like, no.
Come.
It's okay. Oh,
Come,
baby,
come.
it's okay.
Come. It's alright. It's alright. Yeah. There he is. He hates when I pick him up because I'm the only one that he can't wiggle away from.
Well, because he gets bullied.
Yeah. I bully all of the animals so that they know their place.
I can't hold you like that. You're too big. Sorry.
But yeah, Boo is called Boo because he was found near a graveyard with his dead siblings, and so they very rudely named him Boo. Making jokes of his trauma.
Tried to grab onto me.
Yeah. Let's take you back to Mom. There we go.
It's okay.
He would much rather be held by Mom or the boy than me. They don't run away from me, but they know that if I'm holding them, they're probably in trouble. Yeah, and Coda is the puppy, who's very handsome but not very smart. The cat actually fell off the bathroom sink the other day. It was very funny. He jumped up, saw me coming into the bathroom. He flipped around to jump off because he's not supposed to be on the counter. Saw me, flipped around, got his foot caught in the towel rack, and fell and landed on his face. He is about as graceful as a rock being thrown down a hill. Castle, I guess, being Coda are the same. Very handsome, but not very smart. Is that what you mean? Yeah, you're both handsome and smart. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Don't stab yourself. What are you doing? Good Lord, woman. Frost also says good evening, by the way. All right. Now we can begin. Yes, Jaeger, everyone agrees that you're both handsome and smart. Elsie says hello, woof, to Coda and Boo. Coda would love to have another dog to run around with. Boo would be ambivalent. He cares not either way. I may not be bright, but I used to be able to lift heavy things. You guys would have a laugh at one of our cats yesterday. She was lazy playing with toys on the cat tree while laying in the hammock and pulled himself out so fast he fell off the tree. That's very funny. That's very funny, Milu. Elsie is a very attractive, high-energy girl. Well, unfortunately, Coda's not smart enough to realize what that would mean, but he would most definitely because he loves to play. My brother has a small husky, and whenever they're together, they just play and play and play. Ooh, I'm getting. You guys might lose me. I might get a crash here. Hang on. I might end up losing all of you. Hang on. No, you didn't miss any of the story, Bear. You're good. And now I can't see any of what's going on TikTok, so we are at the start of technical difficulties, so that's wonderful. Alright, well, that's going to be about the best I'll be able to do. Get the goblin spray quick. My kitten Merlin is trying to take out my Yule tree. Ashley says, hello, my lady.
Hello.
I missed what you said about where we are in the magician and what happened last night. Aaron also says, hello, lady. Okay, that was all I missed over on TikTok. At the end of magician, we actually the final 4 paragraphs I was gushing about, because we got to see the perspective of the Tsurani for the first time. And turns out that the Tsurani look on those of Mid-Kemia to be exactly the same as those of Mid-Kemia looking upon those of the Tsurani. And they look at them basically as being savages. And seems like there is a little bit of political turmoil in the Tsurani ranks, because they're withdrawing entirely from the war. Funny-ish pet story. My dog Smoke's original name was Noose because his cord was tied around his neck. Dark humor, but I found it funny-ish. That is kind of funny. Do not be self-deprecating. There will be someone to see beauty in you that you can't see. The way that I described how I felt about my wife is I saw a gem in her that only I could polish. You'll find your person. Well, Matt is just naturally self-deprecating, Dakota. He has a wonderful lady who tells him all the time how pretty he is. It doesn't matter. Matt has overwhelmingly low self-esteem, so we all have to tell him how pretty he is all the time. Matt is very pretty. Hey, Wesley, you made it in just in time. We've been live for almost 2 hours, but we're just now starting to read.
Hey, what?
He wants all the doors open all the time so he can pick which room he's gonna yowl in.
What are you doing? Oh, you're probably upset about your box. Okay. He's just standing in his box at home. It's probably too
Ben here? Oh, okay. Well, good to see you, Wesley. Hello, hello. I didn't see you drop in.
Clean it out. Everett, clean it out. I know. Is it dirty? Do you want the dirty box?
It's alright, Matt. We love you anyways. I've seen Chatty Matty's face, and is he beautiful, John? Did his glasses fall off when you saw him and it turned out he was very beautiful? Also, Christy, I don't know when you dropped in, but hello. I know I didn't say hello to you, so hello. Alright. Chapter 19. Slave. Well, now Matt got Um, Destiny, can you unmute Matt? I don't know why.
Okay?
I don't know why he got.
You don't even like it that hot. We'll clean
All right, here we go.
it. Okay?
The dying slave lay screaming. The day was unmercifully hot. Oh, never mind. It only muted him for a second. Never mind, Destiny. You're good. It just hid. It hid his message for saying a bad word.
Why is he standing still?
Can't say bad words.
Can't say bad words. Only good words. The other slaves went about their work, ignoring the sound as much as possible. Life in the work camp was cheap, and it did no good to dwell on the fate that awaited so many. The dying man had been bitten by a reli, a snake-like swamp creature. Its venom was slow-acting and painful. Short of magic, there was no cure. Suddenly, there was silence. Pug looked over to see a Surani guard wipe off his sword. A hand fell on Pug's shoulder. Laurie's voice whispered in his ear. Looks like our venerable overseer was disturbed by the sound of Tofton's dying. Pug tied a coil of rope securely around his waist. At least it ended quickly. He turned to the tall blonde singer from the kingdom city of Tirsog and said, Keep an eye out. This one's old and may be rotten. Without another word, Pug scampered up the bole of the Nagagi tree, a fir-like swamp tree the Surani harvested for wood and resins. With few metals, the Surani had become clever in finding substitutes. The wood of this tree could be worked like paper, then dried to an incredible hardness, useful in fashioning 100 things. The resins were used to laminate woods and cure hides. Properly cured hides could produce a suit of armor as tough as mid-Chemian chainmail, and laminated wood weapons were nearly a match for mid-Chemian steel. 4 years in the swamp camp had hardened Pug's body. His sinewy muscles strained as he climbed the tree. His skin had been tanned deeply by the harsh sun of the Surani homeworld. His face was covered by a slave's beard. Pug reached the first of the large branches and looked down at his friend. Laurie stood knee-deep in the murky water, absently swatting at the insects that plagued them while they worked. Pug liked Laurie. The troubadour had no business being here, but then he had no business tagging along with the patrol in the hope of seeing Surani soldiers either. He said he had wanted material for ballads that would make him famous throughout the kingdom. He had seen more than he had hoped for. The patrol had ridden into a major Surani offensive, and Laurie had been captured. He had come to this camp over 4 months ago, and he and Pug had quickly become friends. Pug continued his climb, keeping one eye always searching for the dangerous tree dweller of Kelawan. Reaching the most likely place for the topping, Pug froze as he caught a glimpse of movement. He relaxed when he saw it was only a needler, a creature whose protection was its resemblance to a clump of Nagagi needles. It scurried away from him, the presence of the human and made the short jump to the branch of the neighboring tree. Pug made another survey and started tying his ropes. His job was to cut away the tops of the huge trees, making the fall less dangerous to those below. Pug took several cuts at the bark, then he felt the edge of his wooden axe bite into the softer pulp beneath. A faint, pungent odor greeted his careful sniffing. Swearing, he called down to Laurie. This one's rotten. Tell the overseer. He waited, looking out over the tops of the trees. All around, strange insects and bird-like creatures flew. In the 4 years he had been a slave on this world, He had not grown used to the appearance of these life forms. They were not all that different from those on Midkemia. But it was the similarities as much as the differences that kept reminding him this was not his home. Bees should not be yellow. Bees should be yellow and black striped, not bright red. Eagles shouldn't have yellow bands in their wings, nor hawks purple. These creatures were not bees, eagles, or hawks, but the resemblance was striking. Pug found it easier to accept the stranger creatures of Calawan than these. The six-legged Nitra, a domesticated beast of burden that looked like some sort of bovine with two extra stumpy legs, or like the Choja, the insectoid creatures who served the Surani and could speak their language. He had come to find familiar. But each time he glimpsed a creature from the corner of his eye and turned, expecting to see a Midkemian only to find it was not. Then the despair would strike. Laurie's voice brought him from his reverie. "The overseer's come!" Pug swore. If the overseer had to get himself dirty by wading in the water, he would be in a foul mood, which would mean beatings or a reduction in the chronically meager food. He would already be angered by the delay in the cutting. A family of burrowers, beaver-like six-legged creatures, had made themselves at home in the roots of the great trees. They would gnaw the tender roots, and the trees would sicken and die, and soft, pulpy wood would turn sour, then watery, and after a while the tree would collapse from within. Several burrowers' tunnels had been poisoned, but the damage had already been done to the trees. A rough voice, swearing mightily while its owner splashed through the swamp, announced the arrival of the overseer. Nogamu. He himself was a slave, but he had attained the highest rank a slave could rise to, and while he could never hope to be free, he had many privileges and could order soldiers and freemen placed under his command. A young soldier came walking behind, a look of mild amusement on his face. He was clean-shaven in the manner of a Surani freeman, and he looked up at Pug. The slave could get a good look at him. He had high cheekbones and nearly black eyes that so many Surani possessed. His dark eyes caught sight of Pug, and he seemed to nod slightly. His blue armor was a type unknown to Pug. But with strange Surani military organization, that was not surprising. Even family, Demson, area, town, city, and province appeared to have its own army. How they all related to one another within the empire was beyond Pug's understanding. The overseer stood at the base of the tree, his short robe held above the water. He growled like a bear he resembled and shouted up at Pug. "Was this about another rotten tree?" Pug spoke the Saroni language better than any Midkemian in the camp, for he had been there longer than all but a few old Saroni slaves. He shouted down, "It smells rot! It smells of rot! We should re-rig another and leave this one alone, slave master." The overseer shook his fist. "You're all lazy! There's nothing wrong with this tree, it's fine. You only want to keep from working, now cut it!" Pug sighed. There was no arguing with the bear, as all the Midkemian slaves called Nogamu. He was obviously upset about something, and the slaves would pay the price. Pug started hacking through the upper section, and soon it fell to the ground. The smell of rot was thick, and Pug removed the ropes quickly. Just as the last length was coiled from his waist, a splitting sound came from directly in front of him. "It falls!" he shouted down to the slaves standing in the water below. Without hesitation, they all ran. The cry of "falls" was never ignored. The bole of the tree was splitting down the middle, now that the top had been cut away. While this was not common, if a tree was far enough gone for the pulp to have lost its strength, Any flaw in the bark would cause it to split under its own weight. The tree's branches would pull the halves away from each other. Had Pug been tied to the bowl, the ropes would have cut him in half before they snapped. Pug gauged the direction of the fall. Then, as the half he stood upon started to move, he launched himself away from it. He hit the water flat, back first, trying to let 2 feet of water break his fall as much as possible. The blow from the water immediately followed by the harder impact of the ground. The bottom was mostly mud, so there was little damage done. The air in his lungs exploded from his mouth when he struck, and there was a sense and his senses reeled for a moment. He retained enough presence of mind to sit up and gasp a deep lungful of air. Suddenly, a heavy weight hit him across the stomach, knocking the wind from him and pushing his head back into the water. He struggled to move and found a large branch across his stomach. He could barely get his face out of the water to get air. His lungs burned and he breathed without control. The water came pouring down his windpipe and he started to choke, coughing and sputtering. He tried to keep calm, but he felt panic rise within him. He frantically pushed at the weight across him, but he couldn't move it. Abruptly, he found his head above water. Laurie said, "Spit, Pug, spit! Get the muck out of your lungs, or you'll get lung fever." Pug coughed and spit. With Laurie holding his head, he could catch his breath. Laurie shouted, "Grab this branch! I'll pull him out from under." Several slaves splashed over, sweat beading their bodies. They reached underwater, seized the branch. Heaving, they managed to move it slightly, but Laurie couldn't drag Pug out. "Bring the axes! We'll have to cut the branch from the tree." Other slaves were starting to bring the axes over when Nogamu shouted, "No, leave him! There's no time for this! There are other trees to cut!" Laurie nearly screamed at him. "We can't leave him, he'll drown!" The overseer crossed over, struck Laurie across the face with his lash. It cut deep into the singer's cheek, but he didn't let go of his friend's head. "Back to work, slave, or you'll be beaten tonight for speaking to me that way. There are others who can talk. Now let him go." He struck Laurie again, and Laurie winced. He held Pug's head still above the water. Nogamu raised the lash for a third blow, but was halted by a voice from behind. "Cut the slave from under the branch." Laurie saw the speaker was the young soldier, who had accompanied the slave master. The overseer whirled about, unaccustomed to having his orders questioned. When he saw who had spoken, he bit back his words that were on his lips, bowing his head, and he said, "My lord's will." He signaled for the slaves with axes to cut Pug loose, and in short order, Pug was out from under the branch. Laurie carried him over to where the soldier stood. Pug coughed the last of the water from his lungs and gasped. "I thank the master for my life." The man said nothing, but when the overseer approached, directed his remarks to him. "The slave was right, and you were not. The tree was rotten. It is not proper for you to punish him for your bad judgment and ill temper. I should have you beaten, but will not spare the time for it. The work goes slowly, and my father will be displeased." Nogamu bowed his head. "I lose much face in my lord's sight. May I have his permission to kill myself?" "No. It is too much an honor. Return to work." The overseer's face grew red in silent shame and rage. Raising his lash, he pointed at Laurie and Pug. "You two, back to work." Laurie stood and Pug tried. His knees were wobbly from his near drowning, but he managed to stand after a few attempts. "These two shall be excused from work for the rest of the day," the young lord said. "This one," he pointed to Pug, "is of little use. The other must dress those cuts you gave him, or the festering will start." He turned to the guard. "Take them back to the camp and see to their needs." Pug was grateful, not so much for himself, but for Laurie. With a little rest, Pug could have returned to work, but an open wound in the swamp was a death warrant as often as not. Infections came quickly in this hot, dirty place, and there were few ways of dealing with them. They followed the guard. As they left, Pug could see the slave master watching them with naked hatred in his eyes. Alright, and that's where we're going to pause for right now, my friends. Okay, looks like I've got my scroll back over here. Excellent. Okay, I haven't missed anyone, I don't think. Alright, good. Wonderful. What? What? What have you? What? What are you whining about? Gross, don't burp in my face. Gross. Where are your manners? Wookie! How's it going, my friend? Is it going well? Welcome in. Alright, friends, give me just a moment. I'm gonna take the warhound out to do his thing. Oh, stretch and hydrate is a wonderful idea. I heard you. Yes, you've asked very nicely. Give me just a moment. No, he's asking me nicely to go outside. He wants to go out. Yes, I heard you. You asked very nicely, and we're gonna go. Give me just a second. Just a second. Relax. Be calm. Alright, friends. Give me 1 minute, and I will... I'll be right back. Gotta go take the popper out to do his thing. But I will be back presently, and we'll read a chapter of Harry Potter. Alright, friends, I have returned, and now it is time for Harry Potter. I love your little, your little Sunday morning special announcements, Destiny. Those are wonderful. Atreyu, how goes it, my friend? Welcome in. Alright. We are beginning Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Chapter 20, the first task. Of course, Kebian, I'm glad you're finally in, my friend. I hope that you enjoy your little travel through. I hope you made it through what is it called when somebody new comes in? Digger! Hello, my friend. Hello. Thank you for the deenies. Tips to the Tavern Keeper are always appreciated. Thank you kindly. Every platform sort of goes out at a different rate. Dakota. All of them are a little bit different. Hello, my friend. Thank you kindly for dropping in and showing a little bit of your green for us. Thank you kindly. I hope that you and the lady are well. Omnipresence is beginning. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Right, it's a little bit reminiscent of that. It's a little newscast special, right? Yeah, it's beautiful. I thought you were about to say Atreus, and I was about to type boy. No, Atreyu is one of our friends over on YouTube. What is the thing that you go through when you start on like a new job, Lovey? When you're like starting a new job, you go through orientation. There we go. Thank you. I just had to say it to you so it would bounce back to me and make sense. Kemi, I hope that you completed your orientation and that you're enjoying yourself over in the guild. Triple the views, 3 times the support you deserve. Oh, thank you, Dakota. I appreciate that. Too kind. Thank you, Atreyu. Yes, orientation. I was starting to say that when we have ads. Honeymoon phase, orientation, yeah. My brain wanted to say initiation, but that makes it sound like a cult, and we've really just gotten away from the cult imagery, so I'd like to keep us away from that. Alright, let us begin. Chapter 20, the first task. Harry got up on Sunday morning and dressed so inattentively that it was a while before he realized that he was trying to pull his hat onto his foot instead of his sock. When he'd finally got all his clothes on the right parts of his body, he hurried off to find Hermione. Locating her at the Gryffindor table in the Great Hall, where she was eating breakfast with Ginny. Feeling too queasy to eat, Harry waited until Hermione had swallowed her last spoonful of porridge, then dragged her out into the grounds for another long walk. There he told her about the dragons and about everything Sirius had said, while they took another long walk around the lake. Alarmed as she was by Sirius's warnings about Karkaroff, Hermione was still thought that the dragons were a more pressing problem.
Let's just try to keep you alive until Tuesday evening,
she said desperately.
and then we can worry about Karkaroff.
They walked 3 times around the lake, trying all the way to think of a simple spell that would subdue a dragon. Nothing whatsoever occurred to them, so they retired to the library instead. Here, Harry pulled down every book he could find on dragons, and both of them set to work searching through a large pile. Talon clipping.
Talon clippings by charms, treating scale rot. This is no good. This is for nutters like Hagrid, who want to keep them healthy. Dragons are extremely difficult to slay, owing to the ancient magic that endues their thick hides. Which none but the most powerful spells can penetrate. But Sirius said it was a simple one that would do. Let's try some simple spell books then, said Harry, throwing aside Men Who Loves Dragons Too Much. That's Hagrid's book indeed. He returned to the table with a pile of spell books, set them down, and began to flick through them each in turn. Hermione whispered non-stop at his elbow. Well, there are switching spells, but what's the point of switching it? Unless you swapped its fangs for wine gums or something that would make it less dangerous. Trouble is, like that book said, not much is going to get through a dragon's hide. I'd say transfigure it, but something that big, you really haven't got a hope. I doubt even Professor McGonagall. Unless you're supposed to put the spell on yourself, maybe give yourself extra powers. But they're not simple spells, I mean. We haven't done any of those in class. I only know about them because I've been doing OWL practice papers. Hermione, said Harry through gritted teeth, will you shut up for a bit, please? I'm trying to concentrate. But all that happened when Hermione fell silent was that Harry's brain filled with a sort of blank buzzing, which didn't seem to allow room for concentration. He stared hopelessly down at the index for basic hexes for busy and vexed, instant scalping, but dragons had no hair, pepper breath, which would probably increase the dragon's firepower, horn tongue, just what he needed to give it an extra weapon. Oh no, he's back again. Why can't he read on his stupid ship? Said Hermione irritably. As Victor Crumb slouched in, cast a surly look over at the pair of them, and settled himself in a distant corner with a pile of books. Come on, Harry. We'll go back to the common room. His fan club will be here at any moment, twittering away. And sure enough, as they left the library, a gang of girls tiptoed past them into the library, one of them wearing a Bulgaria scarf tied around her waist. Harry barely slept that night. When he awoke on Monday morning, he seriously considered for the first time ever just running away from Hogwarts. You had a bicycle accident today, so talk? Well, that's not good. I hope you're all right and resting well. Don't let yourself get too beat up. But as he looked around the great hall at breakfast time and thought about what leaving the castle would mean, he knew he could never do it. It was the only place he'd ever been happy. Well, he supposed he must have been happy with his parents too, but he couldn't remember that. Somehow the knowledge that he would rather be here than facing a dragon back in Privet Drive with Dudley was a good to know. It made him feel slightly calmer. He finished his bacon with difficulty, his throat wasn't working too well, and as he and Hermione got up, he saw Cedric Diggory leave the Hufflepuff table. Cedric still didn't know about the dragons, the only champion who didn't. If Harry was right in thinking that Maxine and Karkaroff would tell Fleur and Crumb. Hermione, I'll see you in the greenhouses, said Harry, coming to a decision he would catch up with Cedric leaving the hall. Go on, I'll catch up with you. Harry, you'll be late. The bell's about to ring. I'll catch up with you, okay? By the time Harry reached the bottom of the marble staircase, Cedric was at the top. He was with a load of six-year friends. Harry didn't want to talk to Cedric in front of them. They were among those who had been quoting Rita Skeeter's article at him every time he went near them. He followed Cedric at a distance, and saw that they were heading to the Charms corridor. This gave Harry an idea. Pausing at a distance from them, he pulled out his wand and carefully aimed. Defendo! Cedric's bag split. Parchment, quills, and books spilled out all over the floor. Several bottles of ink smashed. Don't bother, said Cedric in an exasperated voice as his friends bent down to help him. Go and tell Flitwick I'm coming. Go on. This was exactly what Harry had been hoping for. He slipped his wand back into his robes, waited until Cedric's friends had disappeared into their classroom, and hurried up the corridor, which was now empty of everyone but Cedric and himself. Hi. Oh, hi, said Cedric, picking up a copy of a guide to advanced transfiguration that was now splattered in ink. My bag just split. Brand new and all. Cedric, said Harry, the first task is dragons. What? Said Cedric, looking up. Dragons, said Harry, speaking quickly in case Professor Flitwick came out to see where Cedric had got to. We've got 4, one for each of us, and we've got to get past them. Cedric stared at Harry. Harry saw some of the panic he'd been feeling since Saturday night flickering in Cedric's grey eyes. Are you sure? Cedric said in a hushed voice. Dead sure, said Harry. I've seen them. But how did you find out? We're not supposed to know. Never mind, said Harry quickly. He knew Hagrid would be in trouble if he told the truth. But I'm not the only one who knows. Fleur and Crom will know by now. Maxine and Karkaroff both saw the dragons too. Cedric straightened up, his arms full of inky quills, parchment, and books, his ripped bag dangling off one shoulder. He stared at Harry, and there was a puzzled, almost suspicious look in his eyes. Why are you telling me? He asked. Harry looked at him in disbelief. He was sure Cedric wouldn't have asked that if he had seen the dragons himself. Harry wouldn't have let his worst enemy face those monsters unprepared. Well, perhaps Malfoy or Snape. It's fair, isn't it? He said to Cedric. We all know now. We're on an even footing, aren't we? Cedric was still looking at him with a slightly suspicious way when Harry heard a familiar clunking noise behind him. He turned around and saw Mad-Eye Moody emerging from a nearby classroom. Come with me, Potter, he said. Diggory, off you go. Harry stared apprehensively at Moody. Had he overheard them? Professor, I'm supposed to be in herbology. Never mind that, Potter. In my office, please. Harry followed him, wondering what was going to happen to him now. What if Moody wanted to know how he'd found out about the dragons? Would Moody go to Dumbledore and tell on Hagrid? Or just turn Harry into a ferret? Well, it might be easier to get past the dragon if he was a ferret. Harry thought dully. He'd be smaller, much less easy to see from a height of 50 feet. He followed Moody into his office. Moody closed the door behind them and turned to look at Harry, his magical eye fixed upon him as well as the normal one. That was a very decent thing of you to do, Potter, Moody said quietly. Harry didn't know what to say. This wasn't the reaction he had expected at all. Sit down, said Moody, and Harry sat, looking around. He had visited this office under 2 of its previous occupants. In Professor Lockhart's day, the walls had been plastered with beaming, winking pictures of Professor Lockhart himself. When Lupin had lived here, you were more likely to come across a specimen of something fascinating, new dark creature he had procured for them to study in class. Now, however, the office was full of a number of exceptionally odd creatures that Harry supposed Moody had used in the days when he had been in order. On his desk stood what looked like a large cracked glass spinning top. Harry recognized it at once as a sneaker scope, because he owned one himself, though it was much smaller than Moody's. In the corner on some small table stood an object that looked like an extra squiggly golden television aerial. It was humming slightly. What appeared to be a mirror hung opposite Harry on the wall, but it was not reflecting the room. Shadowy figures were moving around inside of it, none of them clearly in focus. "Like my dark detectors, do you?" said Moody, who was watching Harry closely.
What's that?
Harry asked, pointing at the squiggly golden aerial.
Secrecy sensor. Vibrates when it detects concealment and lies. No use here, of course. Too much interference. Students in every direction lying about why they haven't done their homework. Been humming ever since I got here. I had to disable my sneakoscope because it wouldn't stop whistling. It's extra sensitive, picks up stuff about a mile around. Of course, could be picking up more than kid stuff, he added in a growl.
And what's the mirror for?
Oh, that's my faux glass. See them there, skulking around. I'm not really in trouble until I can see the whites of their eyes. That's when I open my trunk.
He let out a short, harsh laugh and pointed to a large trunk under the window. It had 7 keyholes in a row. Harry wondered what was in there, until Moody's next question brought him sharply back to earth.
So, found out about the dragons, have you?
Harry hesitated. He'd been afraid of this, but he hadn't told Cedric, and he certainly wasn't going to tell Moody, that Hagrid had broken the rules.
It's all right,
said Moody, sitting down and stretching out his wooden leg with a groan.
Cheating's a traditional part of the Triwizard Tournament, and always has been.
I didn't cheat, said Harry sharply. It was a sort of accident that I found out.
Moody grinned.
I wasn't accusing you, laddie. I've been telling Dumbledore from the start. He can be as high-minded as he likes, but you can bet old Karkaroff and Maxine won't be. They'll have told their champions everything they can. They want to win. They want to beat Dumbledore. They'd like to prove he's only human.
Moody gave a harsh laugh, and his magical eyes swiveled around so fast it made Harry feel queasy to watch it.
So, got any ideas on what you're going to get past the dragon with yet?
Said Moody.
No,
said Harry.
Well, I'm not going to tell you,
said Moody gruffly.
I don't show favouritism, mate. I'm just going to give you some good general advice. And the first bit is, play to your strengths.
I haven't got any,
said Harry before he could stop himself.
Excuse me,
growled Moody.
You've got strengths. If I say you've got them, think now. What are you best at?
Harry tried to concentrate. What was he best at? Well, that was easy, really.
Quidditch,
he said dully.
A fat lot of help.
That's right,
said Moody, staring at him very hard, his magical eye barely moving at all.
You're a damn good flyer from what I've heard.
Yeah, but
Harry stared at him.
I'm not allowed a broom. I've only got my wand.
My second piece of general advice,
said Moody loudly, interrupting him,
is to use a nice simple spell which will enable you to get what you need.
Harry looked at him blankly. What did he need?
Come on, boy,
whispered Moody.
Put them together. It's not that difficult.
And it clicked. He was best at flying. He needed to pass the dragon in the air. For that, he needed his firebolt. And for his firebolt, he needed
Hermione,
Harry whispered. When he had sped into the greenhouse 3 minutes later, uttering a hurried apology to Professor Sprout as he passed her.
Hermione, I need your help.
Good night, so talk rest well, or I guess have a good day, because what time is it where you are? Rebecca, Armory, Charles, thank you for the follows, my friends. You have marked the map for the tavern, and you should be able to find your way back. Fire Deck, thank you for the confetti. The celebration is appreciated, and tips are always appreciated. Thank you kindly, my friend. But Amory, Charles, and Rebecca, thank you for the follows over on TikTok, my friends. I don't know, I'm not getting anything from Facebook. Is Facebook chat... Has anybody tried to chat on Facebook recently? Because I'm not seeing anything over there. Anyways, I'm going to go head back down. Welcome into the new folk. So very glad that you could join us. Digger, thank you for the D&Es, brother. Appreciate you. Firedeck, always enjoy listening. It's always my pleasure to tell you a story, my friend. Always a pleasure to have you in the tavern. Chat looks good on this. Okay, so it's not popping up for me here then. I guess I need to refresh because it is not popping up. Digger, you're wonderful. I hope Dimples is doing well. I hope you and the lady are both thriving right now. Okay, so I'm just not seeing... The chat was not loading for me. That's all I wanted to know. Yeah, well, but even the ones that you guys were putting in didn't show up for me. Yeah, I didn't see these stars come in from John. They just now popped for me. Thank you for the stars, Bear. I appreciate you. And Martin's last comment didn't pop up for me either, so... I'll go check that my fire is still lit. Spectacular. Wonderful, Dicker. I'm so glad. Wherever you go, there's sure to be a wonderful conversation, Matty. Alright, where was I? What do you think I've been trying to do, Harry? She whispered back, her eyes round with anxiety over the top of a quivering flutterby bush she was pruning. Hermione, I need to learn how to do a summoning charm properly by tomorrow afternoon. And so they practiced. They didn't have lunch, but headed for the free classroom, where Harry tried with all his might to make various objects fly across the room to him. He was still having problems. The books and quills kept losing heart halfway across the room and dropping like stones to the floor. Concentrate, Harry. Concentrate. What do you think I'm doing? I'm trying, said Harry angrily. A filthy great dragon keeps popping into my head for some reason. Okay, try again. He wanted to skip divination to keep practicing, but Hermione refused, point blank, to skive off arithmancy, and there was no point staying without her. He therefore had to endure over an hour of Professor Trelawney, who spent half the lesson telling everyone that the position of Mars in relation to Saturn at that moment meant that people born in July were in great danger of sudden and violent deaths. That's good, said Harry loudly, his temper getting the better of him. Just as long as it's not drawn out, I don't want to suffer. Ron looked for a moment as though he was going to laugh. He certainly caught Harry's eye for the first time in days. But Harry was still feeling resentful towards Ron to care. He spent the rest of the lesson trying to attract small objects toward him under the table. With his wand, he managed to make a fly zoom straight into his hand, though he wasn't entirely sure that was owing to his prowess with summoning charms. Perhaps the fly was just stupid. He forced down some dinner after divination, then returned to the empty classroom with Hermione, using the invisibility cloak to avoid the teachers. They kept practicing until past midnight. They would have stayed longer, but Peeves turned up, and, pretending to think that Harry wanted things thrown at him, started chucking chairs across the room. Harry and Hermione left in a hurry before the noise attracted Filch, and went back to the Gryffindor common room, which was now mercifully empty. At 2 o'clock in the morning, Harry stood near the fireplace. surrounded by heaps of objects, books, quills, several upturned chairs, and an old set of gobstones and Neville's toad, Trevor. Only in the last hour had Harry really got the hang of the summoning charms.
That's better, Harry. That's loads better.
Hermione said, looking exhausted but very pleased.
Well, now we know what to do next time I can't manage a spell,
he said, throwing a rune dictionary back to Hermione, so he could try again.
Threaten me with a dragon, right?
He raised his wand once more.
Accio Dictionary.
The heavy book soared out of Hermione's hand, flew across the room, and Harry caught it.
Harry, I really think you've got it,
said Hermione delightedly.
Just as long as it works tomorrow, Harry said. The firebolt's going to be much farther away than stuff in here. It's going to be in the castle, and I'm going to be out there on the grounds. That doesn't matter, said Hermione firmly. Just as long as you're concentrating really, really hard on it, it'll come. Harry, we'd better get some sleep. You're going to need it.
Harry tried focusing so hard on learning the summoning charms that evening that some of his blind panic had left him. It returned in full measure, however, on the following morning. The atmosphere in the school was one of great tension and excitement. Lessons were to stop at midday, giving all the students time to get down to the dragon's enclosure. Though, of course, they didn't know what they would find there. Harry felt oddly separate from everyone around him. Whether they were wishing him good luck or hissing,
"We'll have a box of tissues ready, Potter,"
as he passed. It was a state of nervousness so advanced that he wondered whether he mightn't just lose his head when they tried to lead him out to his dragon and start trying to curse everyone in sight. Time was behaving in more peculiar fashion than ever, rushing past in great dollops, so that one moment he seemed to be sitting down in his first lesson, History of Magic, and the next walking into lunch. And then, where had the morning gone? The last dragon-free hours. Professor McGonagall was hurrying over to him in the Great Hall, lots of people watching.
"Potter, the champions have come down to the grounds now. You have to get ready for the first task." "Okay," said Harry, standing up, his fork falling onto his plate with a clatter. "Good luck, Harry," Hermione whispered. "You'll be fine."
"Yeah," said Harry, in his voice that was most unlike his own. He left the Great Hall with Professor McGonagall. She didn't seem herself either. In fact, she looked nearly as anxious as Hermione. As she walked him down the stone steps and out into the cold November afternoon, she put her hand on his shoulder.
"Now, don't panic," she said. Just keep a cool head. We've got wizards on hand to control the situation if it gets out of hand. The main thing is to just do your best. Nobody will think any worse of you. Are you all right?"
"Yeah," Harry heard himself say.
Yes, I'm fine."
She was leading him towards a place where the dragons were, around the edge of the forest. But when they approached the clump of trees, behind which the enclosure would be clearly visible, Harry saw that a tent had been erected, its entrance facing them, screening the dragons from view.
"You're to go in there with the other champions,"
said Professor McGonagall in a rather shaky sort of voice.
"and wait for your turn, Potter. Mr. Bragman's in there. He'll be telling you the procedure. Good luck."
"Thanks," said Harry in a flat, distant voice. She left him at the entrance of the tent, and Harry went inside. Fleur Delacour was sitting in a corner on a low wooden stool. She didn't look nearly as composed as usual, but rather pale and clammy. Victor Crumb looked even surlier than usual, which Harry supposed was his way of showing nerves. Cedric was pacing up and down when Harry entered. He gave him a small smile, which Harry returned, feeling the muscles in his face working rather hard, as though they had forgotten how to do it. "Harry, good-o!" said Bagman, happily looking around. Come in! Make yourself at home!" Bagman looked somehow like a slightly overblown cartoon figure, standing amid all the pale-faced champions. He was wearing his old wasp robes again.
Well, now, we're all here. Time to fill you all in,
said Bagman brightly.
When the audience is assembled, I'm going to be offering you each this bag.
He held up a small sack of purple silk and shook it at them.
From which you will each draw a small model of the thing you are about to face. There are different varieties, you see. And I have to tell you something else too. Yes, your task is to collect the golden egg.
Harry glanced around. Cedric nodded once to show he understood Bagman's words, and then started pacing around the tent again. He looked slightly green. Fleur Delacour and Crumb hadn't reacted at all. Perhaps they thought they might be sick if they opened their mouths. That was certainly how Harry felt. But they, at least, had volunteered for this. And in no time at all, hundreds upon hundreds of pairs of feet could be heard passing the tent, their own talk excitedly, laughing, joking. Harry felt as separate from the crowd as if they were different species. And then, it felt about a second later, Harry was opening the neck of the purple sack. Ladies first, he said, offering it to Fleur Delacour. She put a shaking hand inside the bag and drew out a tiny, perfect model of a dragon, a Welsh green. It had the number 2 around its neck, and Harry knew by the fact that Fleur showed no sign of surprise, but rather determined resignation, that she had been right, that he had been right. Madame Maxine had told her about what was coming. The same held true for Crumb. He pulled out the scarlet Chinese fireball. It had a number 3 around its neck. He didn't even blink. He just stared at the ground. Cedric put his hand into the bag, and out came the bluish-grey Swedish short snout, with number 1 tied around its neck. Knowing what was left, Harry put his hand into the silk bag and pulled out the Hungarian horntail, and the number 4. It stretched its wings as he looked down at it, and bared its minuscule fangs.
Well, there you are, said Bagman. You've each pulled out the dragon you will face. The number refers to the order in which you are to take the dragons, do you see? Now I'm going to have you leave in a moment, because I'm commentating. Mr. Diggory, you're first. Just go out into the enclosure when you hear a whistle, all right? Now, Harry, can I have a quick word, outside?
Yes, said Harry blankly, and he got up and went out of the tent with Bagman, who walked him a short way away into the trees, and then turned to him with a fatherly expression on his face.
Feeling all right, Harry? Anything I can get you?
What? Said Harry. No, nothing.
Got a plan?
Said Bagman, lowering his voice conspiratorially.
Because I don't mind sharing a few pointers. If you'd like them, you know,
Bagman continued, lowering his voice.
You're the underdog here, Harry. Anything I can do to help?
No, said Harry so quickly he knew he had sounded rude. No, I've decided what I'm going to do, thanks.
Nobody would know, Harry,
said Bagman, winking at him. No, I'm fine, said Harry, wondering why he kept telling people this, and wondering whether he had ever been less fine. I've got a plan worked out. The whistle had blown somewhere.
Good Lord, I've got to run,
said Bagman in alarm, and he hurried off. Harry walked back into the tent and saw Cedric emerging from it, greener than ever. Harry tried to wish him luck as he walked past, but all that came out of his mouth was a sort of hoarse grunt. Harry went back inside to Fleur and Crumb. Seconds later, they heard the roar of the crowd, which meant Cedric had entered the enclosure, and was now face to face with the living counterpart of his model. It was worse than Harry could have ever imagined, sitting here and listening. The crowd screamed, yelled, gasped like a single many-headed entity as Cedric did whatever he was doing to get past the Swedish short snow. Crumb was still staring at the ground. Fleur had now taken to retracing Cedric's steps round and round the tent, and Bagman's commentary made everything much, much worse. Horrible pictures formed in Harry's mind as he heard,
Oh, narrow miss there, very narrow. Oh, he's taking risks, this one. Clever move, pity it didn't work.
And then, after about 15 minutes, Harry heard the deafening roar that could mean only one thing. Hagrid had got past his dragon and seized the golden egg.
Very good indeed.
Bagman was shouting.
And now the marks from the judges.
But he didn't shout out the marks. Harry supposed the judges were holding them up and showing them to the crowd.
1 down, 3 to go,
Bagman yelled, as the whistle blew again.
Miss Delacour, if you please.
Fleur was trembling from head to foot. Harry felt more warmly toward her than he had done so far. As she left the tent, her head held high, and her hand clutching her wand. Harry and Crumb were left alone, at opposite sides of the tent, avoiding each other's gaze. The same process started again.
Oh, I'm not sure that was wise.
They could hear Bagman shout gleefully,
Oh, nearly. Careful now. Good Lord. I thought she'd had it then.
10 minutes later, Harry heard the crowd erupt into applause once more. Fleur had been successful too. A pause while Fleur's marks were being shown, more clapping, and then, a third time, the whistle.
And here comes Mr. Crumb,
cried Bagman, and Crumb slouched down, leaving Harry quite alone. He felt much more aware of his body than usual, very aware of the way his heart was pumping fast, and his fingers tingling with fear. Yet at the same time, he seemed to be outside of himself, seeing the walls of the tent and hearing the crowd, as though from very far away.
Oh, very daring,
Bagman yelled, and Harry heard the Chinese fireball emit a horrible roaring shriek, while the crowd drew its collective breath.
That's some nerve he's showing. Oh, yes, and he's got the egg.
Applause shattered the wintry air like breaking glass. Crumb had finished. It would be Harry's turn at any moment. He stood up, noticing dimly that his legs seemed to be made of marshmallow. He waited. Crimson, hello, hello. I wonder what kind of dragon I'd be if I were a dragon in the Potterverse. Oh, it's a good question. You'd be a Norbert, Crimson. You'd be a Norbert. Huh? Oh, were you talking to yourself?
Yes.
How dare you? When I'm right here.
You made bad mistakes. And a really difficult fight.
And then he heard the whistle blow. He walked through the entrance of the tent, the panic rising into a crescendo inside of him, and now he was walking past the trees, through a gap in the enclosure fence. He saw everything in front of him as though it was a very highly colored dream. There were hundreds and hundreds of faces staring down at him from the stands, which had been magicked there since he'd last stood on this spot. And there was the Horntail at the other end of the enclosure, crouched low over her clutch of eggs, her wings half furled, her evil yellow eyes upon him, a monstrous, scaly black lizard, thrashing her spiked tail, leaving yard-long gouge marks in the hard ground. The crowd was making a great deal of noise, but whether friendly or not, Harry did not know and did not care. It was time to do what he had to do, to focus his mind entirely and absolutely upon the thing that was his only chance. He raised his wand. "Accio! Firebolt!" he shouted. He waited, every fibre of him hoping and praying. If it hadn't worked, if it wasn't coming, he seemed to be looking at everything around him through some sort of shimmering, transparent barrier, like a heat haze, which made the enclosure and the hundreds of faces around him swim strangely. There's this beautiful illustration of the Hungarian Horntail, by the way. Again by Jim Kay. I have to take my leave once again. Rest well all. I'll see you on Thursday. Good night, Frost.
Always a pleasure, my friend. You have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I hope that you have fantastic dreams and rest very well. This is where the future plot twist starts. Just letting my dog outside. That's quite alright, man. Thank you, Esther. I wasn't seeing the chat scroll on the Facebook portal, so I wanted to make sure that everything was fine. That's alright, Bethany? Yeah. This is the Hungarian Horntail. On some of the screens it sort of disappears, but my husband engages in self-talk and I often perceive an individual present, yet upon closer inspection it becomes evident that he's merely conversing with himself. It does happen. It happens quite often. The lady and I often find ourselves talking to ourselves and thinking that we're talking to each other. And sometimes we do talk to each other and then the other person didn't hear them, so that happens often as well. Where did he leave his broomsticks, says Basilo Bago? That's a very good question. I would assume he had to have left it by a door, or perhaps by a window, so it could find its way out, but... Or there's probably a broken window somewhere in Gryffindor Tower from his Accio firebolt. And then he heard it, speeding through the air behind him. He turned and saw his firebolt hurtling towards him around the edge of the woods, soaring into the enclosure and stopping dead mid-air beside him, waiting for him to mount. The crowd was making even more noise, Bagman was shouting something, but Harry's ears were not working properly anymore. Listening wasn't important. He swung his leg over the broom and kicked off the ground. A second later, something miraculous happened. As he soared upwards, as the wind rushed through his hair, as the crowd's faces became mere flesh-coloured pinpricks below, and the horntail shrank to the size of a dog, he realized that he had not only left the ground behind, but also his fear. He was back where he belonged. This was just another Quidditch match, that was all. Just another Quidditch match, and that horntail was just another... Just a second, folks. Just a second. Just a moment. I don't know if you guys can still hear me over on TikTok. It looks like it's still working. But... let's see. Are we still functioning? No, we've lost cameras everywhere. Dakota, you could pick which one you want. I hear you. Pick throws. All right. Give me a second. This is another one of the network problems. Like I said before, we're still partially using the old magic box because the new one can't cover everything that we need to do. So we're still having to work with that, but let's see. Perhaps that will refresh. Yeah, but it didn't refresh here. Just broke the immersion for everyone. There we go, that's better. And that one's fixed. Now let's see if we can fix it on... Let's see if we can fix it on TikTok now. we are probably not going to be able to fix TikTok. It does not seem happy. Okay, let's... Alright, that probably made me really tiny. And that should take me back up to where I was. Yeah, alright. Beautiful. Hey, we got it to work. Look at that. It's probably the least technical difficulty we've had all year. Look at that. Recovery. Also, to everyone who is liking and sharing the stream over on TikTok while my head is down, thank you kindly, my friends. You've got us to 12,000 likes. That is substantial. Thank you, Bear. I appreciate you keeping eyes out. Alright, let's see. Where was I? Okay, Harry told himself. Diversionary tactics. Let's go. He dived. The Horntail's head followed him. He knew what it was going to do, and pulled out of the dive just in time. A jet of fire had been released exactly where he would have been had he not swerved away. But Harry didn't care. That was no more than dodging a bludger.
Great Scott, he can fly!
Yelled Bagman as the crowd shrieked and gasped.
Are you watching this, Mr. Crumb?
Harry soared higher in a circle. The Horntail was still following his progress, its head revolving on its long neck. If he kept this up, it would be nicely dizzy, but better not to push it too long, or it'd be breathing fire again. Harry plummeted just as the Horntail opened its mouth, but this time he was less lucky. He missed the flames, but the tail came whipping out to meet him instead, and as he swerved to the left, one of the long spikes grazed his shoulder, ripping his robes. He could feel it stinging. He could hear the screaming and groans from the crowd, but the cut didn't seem to be deep. Now he zoomed around to the back of the Horntail, and a possibility occurred to him. The Horntail didn't seem to want to take off. She was too protective of her eggs. Though she writhed and twisted, furling and unfurling her wings and keeping those fearsome yellow eyes on Harry, she was afraid to move too far from them. But he had persuaded her to do it. He had to persuade her to do it, or he'd never get near them. The trick was to do it carefully and gradually. He began to fly, first this way, then the other, not near enough to make her breathe fire to stave him off, but still posing a significant threat to ensure she kept her eyes on him. Her head was swaying this way and that, watching him out of her vertical pupils, her fangs bared. He flew higher, the Horntail's head rose with him, her neck now stretched out to its furthest extent, still swaying like a snake before its charmer. Harry rose a few more feet, and then she let out a roar of exasperation. It was like a fly to her, a fly she was longing to swat, her tail thrashing again, but he was too high to reach now. She shot fire into the air, which she dodged. Her jaws opened wide. Ooh, this is a beautiful illustration. Look at that. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. Ashley, thank you for completing the Dini goal over on TikTok. Tips to the Tavern Keeper always appreciated. I'll use an auto tapper and get you to 100k likes. Oh, you don't have to do that to Dakota. I appreciate you. But yeah, look at how pretty that is. You can't really see it, but if I lean in like this, you have to have some of me in there, or else it doesn't want to show up. Murtaugh is the only one of the old books that I did not read. No, I didn't. So I did read Murtaugh. I read the first and second. I did not read Inheritance, and I haven't read the most recent one. Dakota. Come on, Harry hissed.
swerving tantalizingly above her. "Come on, come and get me. Up you get now." And then she reared, spreading her great leathery black wings at last, as wide as those of a small aeroplane, and Harry dived, before the dragon knew what he had done or where he had disappeared to. She was speeding towards the ground as fast as he could, towards the egg now unprotected by her clawed front leg. He had taken his hands off his firebolt, he had seized the golden egg, and with a spurt of speed he was off. He was soaring out over the stands, the heavy egg safely in his uninjured arms. And it was as though somebody had turned the volume back up for the first time. He became properly aware of the noise of the crowd, which was screaming and applauding as loudly as the Irish supporters of the World Cup. Well, let's be fair, it's hard to be as loud as the Irish supporters of any World Cup. We are quite loud, especially during World Cups. Was that the dragon like... What was the dragon like to Harry when he first took off? He was just staring at him, and it blasted some fire at him when he dived back down Bethany.
Look at that! Bagman was yelling. Will you look at that? Our youngest champion is quickest to get his egg. Well, this is going to shorten the odds on Mr. Potter.
Harry saw the dragon keepers rushing forward to subdue the horntail. Over at the entrance of the enclosure, Professor McGonagall, Professor Moody, and Hagrid hurrying to meet him, all of them waving him towards them, their smiles evident even from this distance. He flew back over the stands and the noise of the crowd pounding in his eardrums, and came in smooth to land, his heart lighter than it had been in weeks. He had got through the first task. He had survived.
"That was excellent, Potter,"
cried Professor McGonagall as he got off the firebolt, which from her was extravagant praise. He noticed that her hand shook as she pointed at his shoulder.
"You'll need to see Madame Pomfrey before the judges give you your score. Over there. She had a mop-up degree already."
Yeah, you did it, Harry, said Hagrid hoarsely. You did it! And again, the horntail and all. And you know, Charlie said that was the worst.
"Thanks, Hagrid," said Harry loudly, so that Hagrid wouldn't blunder on the reveal that he had shown Harry the dragons beforehand. Professor Moody looked very pleased too. His magical eye was dancing in its socket.
Nice and easy does the trick, Potter,
he growled.
"Right then, Potter, to the first aid tent, please,"
said Professor McGonagall. He walked out of the enclosure, still panting, and saw Madame Pomfrey standing at the mouth of the tent, looking worried.
"Dragons,"
she said in a disgusted tone, pulling Harry inside. The tent was divided into cubicles. He could make out Cedric's shadow through the canvas, but Cedric didn't seem to be badly injured. He was sitting up, at least. Madame Pomfrey examined Harry's shoulder, talking furiously all the while.
"Last year Dementors, this year dragons. What are they going to bring to the school next year? You're very lucky this is quite shallow. It'll need cleaning before I heal it up, though."
She cleaned the cut with a dab of some purple liquid, which smoked and stung, and then poked his shoulder with her wand, and he felt it healed instantly.
"Now, just sit quietly for a minute. Sit! And then you can go and get your score."
She bustled out of the tent, and he heard her go next door to say,
"How does it feel now, Diggory?"
Harry didn't want to sit still. He was still too full of adrenaline. He got to his feet, wanting to see what was going on outside. But before he'd reached the mouth of the tent, 2 people had come inside. Hermione, followed closely by Ron.
"Harry, you were brilliant,"
Hermione said squeakily. There were fingernail marks on her face where she had been clutching it in fear.
"You were amazing, you really were."
But Harry was looking at Ron, who was very white and staring at Harry as though he was a ghost.
"Harry,"
he said very seriously,
whoever put your name in that goblet, I reckon they're trying to do you in." It was as though the last weeks had never happened, as though Harry was meeting Ron for the first time, right after he'd been made champion. "Caught on, have you?" said Harry coldly. "Took you long enough." Hermione stood nervously between them, looking from one to the other. Ron opened his mouth uncertainly. Harry knew Ron was about to apologize, and suddenly he found he didn't need to hear it. "It's okay," he said, before Ron could get the words out. "Forget it." "No," said Ron. "I should have." "Forget it," said Harry. Ron grinned nervously at him, and Harry grinned back. Hermione burst into tears. "It's nothing to cry about," Harry told her, bewildered. "You two are so stupid," she shouted, stamping her foot on the ground, tears splashing down in front of her. Then, before either of them could stop her, she had given them both a hug, and dashed away, now positively howling. "Barking," said Ron, shaking his head. "Harry, they'll be putting up your scores." Picking up the golden egg and his firebolt, feeling more elated than he could have believed possible an hour ago, Harry ducked out of the tent, Ron by his side, talking fast. "You were the best, you know. No competition. Cedric did this weird thing where he transfigured a rock on the ground, turned it into a dog, and was trying to make the dragon go for the dog instead of him. Well, it was a pretty cool bit of transfiguration, but it sort of worked because he did get the egg, but got burnt as well. And the dragon changed its mind halfway through and decided it would rather have him than the Labrador. But he only just got away. And that Fleur girl tried this sort of charm. I think she was trying to put him into a trance. Well, that kind of worked too. It went all sleepy. But then it snored and this great jet of flame shot out and her skirt caught fire. She put it out with a bit of water from her wand. And Crom, you won't believe this, he didn't even think of flying. He was probably best after you, though. He hit it with some sort of spell right in the eye. Only thing is, it went trampling around on the ground, squashed half of the rear legs. They took off marks for that. He wasn't supposed to do any damage to him. Ron drew breath as he and Harry reached the edge of the enclosure. Now that the horntail had been taken away, Harry could see that there were 5 judges that were sitting right at the other end, in raised seats draped in gold. "It marks at a 10 for each one," Ron said, Harry squinting up at the field. Saw the first judge, Madame Maxine, raise her wand into the air. What looked like a long silver ribbon shot out and twisted into a large figure 8. "Not bad," said Ron as the crowd applauded. "I suppose she took off marks for your shoulder." Mr. Crouch came next and he shot a number 9 into the air. "Looking good," Ron yelled, thumping Harry on the back. Next, Dumbledore. He too put up a 9 and the crowd were cheering harder than ever. Ludo Bagman, 10. 10? Harry said in disbelief. "But I got hurt. What's he playing at?" "Harry, don't complain," Ron yelled excitedly. And now Karkaroff. Karkaroff raised his wand. He paused for a moment, then shot out of his wand 2, 4. "What?" said Ron furiously. "4? You lousy bias scum. You gave Crom a 10. But Harry didn't care. He wouldn't have cared if Karkaroff had given him 0. Ron's indignation on his behalf was worth about 100 points to him. He didn't tell Ron this, of course, but his heart felt lighter than air as he turned to leave the enclosure. And it wasn't just Ron. Those weren't only Gryffindors cheering from the crowd. When it had come to it, when they had seen what he was facing, most of the school had been on his side, as well as Cedric's. He didn't care about the Slytherins. He could stand whatever they threw at him now. "You're tied for first place, you and Crom," said Charlie Weasley, hurrying to meet them as they set off back towards the school. "Listen, I've got to run. I've got to go and see Mom and Al. I swore I'd tell her what happened, but that was unbelievable. Yeah. And they told me to tell you, you've got to hang around for a few minutes. Bagman wants a word. Back in the Champions tent." Ron said he would wait, so Harry re-entered the tent, which now somehow looked quite different, friendly and welcoming. He thought back to how he felt while dodging the horntail and compared it
to the long wait before he walked out to face it. There was no comparison. The wait had been immeasurably worse. Flor, Cedric, and Crom all came in together. One side of Cedric's face was covered in a thick orange paste, which was presumably mending his burn. He grinned at Harry when he saw him.
Good one, Harry. You too, said Harry, grinning back.
Well done, all of you,
said Bagman, bouncing into the tent and looking as pleased as though he personally had passed a dragon.
Now, just a few quick words. You've got a nice long break before the next task, which will take place at 9:30 on the morning of February the 24th. But we're giving you something to think about in the meantime. If you look down at those golden eggs you're all holding, you'll see that they open. See the hinges there? You need to solve the clue inside the egg, because it will tell you what the second task is and enable you to prepare for it. All clear? Sure? Well, off you go then.
Harry left the tent, rejoined Ron, and they started to walk back to the edge of the forest, talking hard. Harry wanted to hear what the other champions had done in more detail. Then, as they rounded a clump of trees, behind which Harry had first heard the dragon's roar, a witch leapt out from behind them. It was Rita Skeeter. She was wearing acid green robes today. The quick quotes quill in her hand blended perfectly against them.
Congratulations, Harry,
She said, beaming at him.
I wonder if you could give a quick word. How you felt facing the dragon? How you now feel about the fairness of the scoring?
Yeah, you can have a word,
Said Harry savagely. Goodbye. And they set off back towards the castle with Ron.
Oh.
And so ends Chapter 20 of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Our next chapter, which you're going to want to tune in for. Toebeards, thank you for the follow over on TikTok. You have marked the location on your map. You should be able to find your way back again. Chapter 20 is the House Elf Liberation Front, which you'll want to make sure that you're following and you've got your notifications on so you don't miss that come Tuesday. But we're not done with stories yet, friends. No. I promised we would do another 5 pages of Magician. So I guess that means we're going to say goodnight to Tonks, because Tonks only stays for Harry Potter, as her name suggests. Thank you for the stars, Baird. I appreciate you. Tips to the Tavern Keeper always appreciated. I can stay for one chapter and a shanty. This is where the future plot twist starts. Tyson, I don't know if you are headed out, but if you are, have a good night. Keep up the good work, and you're welcome in my bar in New Orleans anytime. Bear, I know you're not in here anymore, Bear Gibson, but I appreciate you. Got to TikTok to 20k. It's showing 16 for me, but I believe you. I believe you, Dakota. Wait, Tuesday? Is it Tuesday already? Lovey, is it Tuesday today?
Yeah.
Thursday then. Thursday. Returning for Thursday. 15.5 for me. First time I'm here for the Magician? Well, you're in for a treat to try. No, it's alright. I completely forgot what day of the week it was. I work all week, so weekends mean nothing to me. So I don't often remember when the weekends are even here. It's Wednesday. Well, it's Wednesday in the Upside Down with our Australian friends. Alright. Let us continue. When we last left off, Pug had nearly died underneath a tree. Pug is our protagonist. We just found out that he was taken to the other world of the Surani and made a slave. He was climbing a tree when the slave master forced him to cut it. It snapped in half and fell upon him, and he almost drowned in the swamp. And now he was taken back to camp to heal along with his friend, who is named Laurie. And Laurie is. I thought that Laurie was a female name, but apparently that's a male friend of his. Augury, time stop, slow and haste. I forgot it was Tuesday too. Yeah, I'm always a little bit behind on that front. All right, let's continue, friends. There was a creaking of floorboards, and Pug came instantly awake. His slave-bred weariness told him that sound didn't belong in the hut during the dead of night. Through the gloom, the footfalls could be heard coming closer. Then they stopped at the foot of his pallet. From the next pallet, he could hear Laurie's sharp intake of breath, and he knew the minstrel was awake also. Probably half the slaves had been awakened by the intruder. The stranger hesitated over something, and Pug waited, tense with uncertainty. There was a grunt, and without hesitation, Pug rolled off his mat. A weight came crashing down, and Pug could hear a dull thud as a dagger struck where his chest would have been only moments before. I will say this too, Book 2 picks up much faster than Book 1 did. Book 1 was very slow, good, but very slow to start. Book 2 is off and running, is off to the races. Alright, where was I? A weight came crashing down, and Pug could hear a dull thud as a dagger struck where his chest would have been only moments before. Suddenly the room exploded with activity. Slaves were shouting and could be heard running from the door. Pug felt the hands reach for him in the dark, and a sharp pain exploded across his chest. He reached blindly for his assailant and grappled with him for the blade. Another slash on his right hand was cut across the palm. Abruptly, the attacker stopped moving, and Pug became aware that a third body was on top of the would-be assassin. Soldiers rushed into the hut, carrying lanterns, and Pug could see Laurie lying across the still body of Nogamu. The bear was still breathing, but from the way the dagger protruded from his ribs, not for long. The young soldier who saved Pug's and Laurie's life entered, and the others made way for him. He stood over the three combatants and simply asked, "Is he dead?" The overseer's eyes opened, and in a faint whisper he said,
"I live, Lord, but I die by the blade."
A weak but defiant smile showed on his sweat-drenched face. The young soldier's expression betrayed no emotion, but his eyes looked as if ablaze. "I think not," he said. He turned to one of the soldiers in the room. "Take him outside at once and hang him. There will be no honor for his clan to sing, but leave the body there for the insects. It will be a warning that I am not to be disobeyed. Go." The dying man's face paled, and his lips quivered.
"No, master, pray leave me to die by the blade. A few moments longer."
Bloody foam appeared at the corner of his mouth. Two husky soldiers reached down for Nogamu, and, with a little thought for his pain, dragged him outside. He could be heard wailing the entire way. The amount of strength left in his voice was amazing, as if his fear of the rope had reawakened in him some deep reserve. They stood in frozen tableau until the sound was cut off in a strangled cry. The young officer had turned to Pug and Laurie. Pug sat, blood running along a shallow gash across his chest. He held his injured hand in the other. It was deeply cut, and his fingers wouldn't move. "Bring your wounded friend," the young soldier commanded Laurie. Laurie helped Pug to his feet and followed the officer out of the slave hut. He led them across the compound to his own quarters and ordered them to enter. Once inside, he instructed a guard to send for the camp physician. He had them standing in silence until the physician arrived. He was an old Zeroni, dressed in the robes of one of their gods. Which one of the Midkemians couldn't tell. He inspected Pug's wound and judged his chest wound superficial. The hand, he said, would be another matter.
Deep cuts. The cut is deep, and the muscles and tendons have been cut. It will heal, but there will be loss of movement and little strength for gripping. It's most likely will be fit only for light duty.
The soldier nodded, a peculiar expression on his face, a mixture of disgust and impatience. Very well. Dress the wounds and leave us. The physician set about cleaning the wounds. He took a score of stitches in the hand, bandaged it, admonished Pug to keep it clean, and left. Pug ignored the pain, easing his mind with an old mental exercise. After the physician was gone, the soldier studied the two slaves before him. By law, I should have you hanged for killing a slave master. They said nothing. They would remain silent until commanded to speak. But, as I hanged the slave master, I'm free to keep you alive. Should it suit my purposes, I can simply have you punished for wounding him. He paused. Consider yourselves punished. With a wave of his hand, he said, Leave me, but return here at daybreak. I've decided what to do with you. They left, feeling fortunate, for under most circumstances they would now be hanging next to the former slave master. As they crossed the compound, Lottie said, I wonder what that was about. Pug responded, I hurt too much to wonder why. I'm just thankful that we still see tomorrow. Lottie said nothing until they reached the slave hut. I think the young lord has something up his sleeve. Whatever. I have a long since given up trying to understand our masters. That's why I stayed alive so long, Laurie. I just do what I'm told, and I endure. Pug pointed to the tree where the former overseer's body could be seen in the pale moonlight. Only the small moon was out tonight. It's much too easy to end up like that. Laurie nodded. Perhaps you're right. I still think about escape. Pug laughed, a short, bitter sound. Where, singer? Where would you run? Toward a rift and then 10,000 Surani? Laurie said nothing. They returned to their pallets and tried to sleep in the humid heat. The young officer sat upon a pile of cushions, cross-legged in Surani fashion. He sent away the guard who had accompanied Pug and Laurie, then motioned for the two slaves to sit. They did so hesitantly, for a slave was not usually permitted to sit in a master's presence. I am Hokanu, of the Shinzawi. My father owns this camp, he said without preamble. He is deeply dissatisfied with the harvest this year. He has sent me to see what can be done. Now I have no overseer to manage the work because of a foolish man blamed you for his own stupidity. What am I to do? They said nothing. He asked. You have been here how long? Pug and Laurie answered in turn. He considered the answers, then said, You, pointing to Laurie, are nothing unusual, save you speak our tongue better than most barbarians, all things considered, but you, pointing at Pug, have stayed alive longer than most of your stiff-necked countrymen, and also speak our language well. You might even pass for a peasant from a remote province. They sat still, unsure of what Hokanu was leading up to. Pug realized with a shock that he was probably older by a year or two than this young lord. He was young for such power. The ways of the Surani were very strange. In Krati, he would still be an apprentice, or, if noble, continuing his education in statecraft. How do you speak so well? He asked of Pug. Master, I was among the first captured and brought here. There were only 7 of us among the many Surani slaves. We learned to survive. After some time, I was the only one left. The others died of burning fever or festering wounds, or were killed by the guards. There were none for me to talk with who spoke my own language. No other countrymen came to this camp for over a year. The officer nodded, and then to Laurie said, And you?
Master, I am a singer, a minstrel in my own land. It is our custom to travel broadly, and we must learn many tongues. I have also a good ear for music. Your language is what's called a tone language on my world. Words with the same sound, save for the pitch with which they are spoken, have different meanings. We have several such tongues in the south of our kingdom. I learned quickly.
A glimmering appeared in the eyes of the soldier.
It is good to know these things.
He lapsed deep into thought. After a moment, he nodded to himself.
There are many considerations that fashion a man's fortunes, slave.
He smiled, looking more like a boy than a man.
This camp is in shambles, and I am prepared to report for my father, the Lord Shinzawe. I think I know what the problems are.
He pointed at Pug.
I would have your thoughts on the subject. You have been here longer than anyone.
Pug composed himself. It had been a long time since anyone had asked him to venture an opinion on anything.
Master, the first overseer, the one who was here when I was captured, was a shrewd man who understood that men, even slaves, cannot be made to work if they are weak from hunger. We had better food, and if injured, we were given time for healing. Nogamu was an ill-tempered man who took every setback as personal affronts. Should borrowers ruin a grove, it was the fault of the slaves. Should a slave die, it was a plot to discredit his oversight of the workforce. Each difficulty was rewarded by another cut in food, or in longer work hours. Any good fortune was regarded as his rightful due. I had suspected as much. Nogamu was, at one time, a very important man. He was the Hondra, Demsne manager of his father's estate. His family was found to be guilty of plotting against the empire, and his own clan sold them all into slavery, those that were not hanged. He was never a good slave. It was thought that giving him responsibility for the camp might find some useful channel for his skills. It proved not to be the case. Is there a good man among the slaves who could command ably?
Laurie inclined his head and then said,
Master Pug here. I think not. I have plans for both of you.
Pug was surprised and wondered what he meant. He said,
Perhaps Chogana, master. He was a farmer until his crops failed and he was sold into slavery for taxes. He has a level head.
The soldier clapped his hands once, and a guard was in the room in an instant.
Send for the slave Chogana.
The guard saluted and left.
It is good that he is Sarani, said the soldier. You barbarians don't know your place, and I hate to think what would happen should I leave one of you in charge. He would have my soldiers cutting trees while the slaves stood guard.
There was a moment of silence, then Laurie laughed. It was a deep, rich sound. Hokanu smiled. Pug watched closely. The young man who had their lives in his hands seemed to be working hard at winning their trust. Laurie appeared to have taken a liking to him, but Pug held his feelings in check. He was further removed from the old Mid-Chemian society, where war made noble and commoner comrades in arms, able to share meals and misery without regard for rank. One thing he had learned about the Surani early on was that they never, for an instant, forgot their station. Whatever was occurring in this hut was by this young soldier's design, not by chance. Hokanu seemed to feel Pug's eyes upon him and looked at him. Their eyes locked briefly before Pug dropped his as a slave is expected to do. For an instant, a communication passed between them. It was as if the soldier had said, You do not believe I am a friend. So be it, as long as you act your part. With a wave of his hand, Hokanu said, Return to your hut, rest well, for we will leave after the noon meal. They rose and bowed and then backed out of the hut. Pug walked in silence, but Laurie said, I wonder where we are going. When no answer came, he added, In any event, it will be better than this place. Pug wondered if it would be. And so is where we will end our reading of Magician for tonight, my friends. Jubis del Bubis. Hell yeah, I've been reading The Magician. I'm actually right around here in my own reading. Is this the extended one? Yeah, so this is the version that we are reading. I'm not entirely sure about the organization, but I think that this is the 2 volumes, Magician Master and Magician Apprentice, in one work. I think. Matthew is indeed in the, Andrew, thank you for subscribing over on YouTube. Welcome to the tavern, my friend. Sword Talk, skating the portals I see. Good night, or good day, Digger. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, my friend. Give our love to Dimples, please. Have a wonderful night, my friend. Alright, friends, I am quite tuckered, so let's Floof the Floofy, thank you for the follow over on Twitch. Welcome to the tavern, my friend. So very glad that you could join us. Let's go ahead and get one song, my friends. Oh, Tyson, you're still here. I thought you had headed off. Yes, good night, Destiny. Thank you for being here. You could have dumped out a little bit ago. Good night, Milu. Yeah, we went quite late tonight. Good night, Sortok. Wonderful to see you as always, my friend. Atreyu, sleep calls for all. Yes, indeed it does. Let's get one song. What shall our song be? Let's have it go. Let's make it a soft song. Mike, thank you for the heart me and for the treat. The ice cream cone is appreciated. Parting glass is a good request. That one's nice and soft. I think Wellerman and Sick Note are a bit too high energy for sending everybody off to bed. I think we'll go with Parting Glass. I think Parting Glass is going to win out tonight. And I will promise to give us Wellerman and Sick Note on the break for Thursday's story time. Alright, let's go ahead and do... No, there was no shanty transition. We only did one... Well, we spent so long discussing that I didn't even take a break tonight, which is probably why I'm a bit tuckered out. Alright, let's do Parting Glass, and then I'm going to send you all off to bed. I guess we can probably throw Red is the Rose in as well. They're both short songs, so we can do 2. We'll do Parting Glass and Red is the Rose. Those are both very gentle songs that we can send everybody off to bed with. So here it is, my friends, Parting Glass for those of you heading out tonight. My money came in during stream, Cassie, you're paying me. I pay you with all of my love, Matty. All of the love that doesn't go to the lady, that next goes to you. Alright, here we go. Of all the money that I had, I've spent it in good company. Oh, and all the harm that I've done, alas, it was to none but me. I do know Danny Boy, Mike. I do know Danny Boy. And all I've done for want of wit to memory
memory now I can't recall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be to you all. So fill to me the parting glass, and drink a health whate'er befalls. Then gently rise and softly call, good night and joy be to you all. Of all the comrades that e'er I had, they're sorry for my going away, and all the sweethearts that e'er I had, they'd wish me one more day to stay. But since it fell unto my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call, good night and joy be to you all. So fill to me the parting glass, and drink a health whate'er befalls. Then gently rise and softly call, good night and joy be to you all. But since it fell unto my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call, good night and joy be to you all. So fill to me the parting glass, and drink a health whate'er befalls. Then gently rise and softly call, good night and joy be to you all. Good night and joy be to you all. Thank you for this song, my friends. Yeah, I think we could. Mike, do you want to hear Danny Boy? I think I could probably manage Danny Boy. Danny Boy is also very short. So we'll do Red is the Rose, and then we'll finish off with Danny Boy. I think that's a really nice way to wrap it up. I think I said, Mike, would you like to hear Danny Boy? Is I think what I said. I don't know. I'm very tired. So if I'm saying things, but yeah, thanks Castle for another great stream. I keep discovering parts of me that need healing here too. And the supportive environment here is very appreciated. Always a pleasure, Matt. Always. It was a great stream. I'm glad that you're back, Dakota. It's been a while, and I'm very glad to see you here. Thank you for the hot puff, Mike. I appreciate you, and for the ice cream cone. The tips to the tavern keeper are always appreciated, my friend. All right, practically the tavern anthem. Red is the rose, a favourite all the way across the board. Come over the hills, my bonny Irish lass. Come over the hills for your darling. You choose the road, love, and I'll make the vow, and I'll be your true love forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows, fair is the lily of the valley, clear is the water that flows from the Boyne, but my love is fairer than any. 'Twas down by Killarney's green woods that we strayed, when the moon and the stars, they were shining. The moon had shone its rays on her locks of golden hair, and she swore she'd be my love forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows, fair is the lily of the valley, clear is the water that flows from the Boyne, but my love is fairer than any. It's not for the parting that my sister pains, it's not for the grief of my mother, it's all for the loss of my bonny Irish lass, that my heart is breaking forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows, fair is the lily of the valley, clear is the water that flows from the Boyne, but my love is fairer than any. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows, fair is the lily of the valley, clear is the water that flows from the Boyne, but my love is fairer than any. Oh, my love is fairer than any. Thank you for the song, my friends. Always a pleasure. Tori May over on TikTok. I'm glad that you're enjoying yourself. And for all of you who are new, I haven't introduced myself. I am Castle. This is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore. And every now and again, I read you all a bedtime story. And most often, I share with you the wonderful and long-standing traditions of my family, and welcome you into our magical tavern here at the end of the world, where old stories, including yours, eventually come to rest. Last song for the night, my friends, is Danny Boy. Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and the roses are falling. It's you, must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. It's here I'll be, in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. But when ye come, and all the flowers are dying, if I am dead, as dead I well may be, you'll come and find the place where I am lying, and kneel and say, "Ah, there for me," and I shall hear, though soft you tread above me, and old my grave will warmer, sweeter be. For you will bend and tell me that you love me, and I shall sleep in peace until you come to me. Thank you for the song, my friends. It is always a wonder and a marvel to have you all here with me. Mike, thank you for the Dini, I appreciate you. And just as a reminder to everyone, we don't sing in the tavern because we're good at it. We just sing because we enjoy the songs. Bear, thank you for the stars, my friend. I appreciate you deeply for that. Thank you kindly. This is the end of story time for tonight, my friends, and sadly, the portals are closing. Thank you for the wonderful evening, Castle, and the reading. See you Thursday. See you Thursday, Ashley. Thank you kindly for assisting the barmaid tonight. Don't you mean screaming melodiously? Yes, screaming melodiously is what we do. Never sing, only ever screaming melodiously. This is where we shall end for tonight, my friends, and I hope you all know that I appreciate every second that you spend here into the tavern. Look into the Brothers' War, about two brothers, obviously, but how they became the first Planeswalkers. Dakota, Brothers' War is probably one of the best mid-level fantasy books ever written, and it's a Magic the Gathering book that most people have never heard of. It's so very good. I actually had a copy, an old friend who I'm no longer associated with, has the copy of that book. And it's a very valuable copy of the book, but I don't have it anymore, and it's very sad. All right, my friends. Tori, Kemian, Wesley, Ashley, Frost, if he's still in here. I don't know if Frost dipped out. Bear, Esther, of course. Tyson, Atreyu, Denise, Teresa, Dakota, Matt. Calamitous, I assume, is still lurking about. Bethany, still in here as well. Let's see who else. Christy is probably still lurking about. Esther for sure is still here. Petra is still in as well. Dragon of the West. Good night, my friend. Alright, and to anyone who I might have missed, I will bid you all a good and fine evening. If only Wizards of the Coast would continue the stories. Wizards lost my business a few years ago because of the way that they treat their products, and it makes me sad because Magic the Gathering was one of my favorite things in the world. D&D is one of my favorite things in the world, but they very much lost my respect and my business along with it. Hopefully someday I'll get to play again, but not anytime soon, sadly. All right, my friends, it's always lovely to have you here in the tavern. And though our parting is sad, we will gather together again. But until we do, I will bid you all stay bloodthirsty. And I will see you the very next time that we gather here in the tavern. And until then, good night. And I'll see you next time.